Good evening, everyone. It's now 6 p.m., Monday, August 21st, 2023, and the Bel Air Beach City Council work session will now come to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Banker.
Present.
Councilmember Belinda Livingstone.
Present.
Councilmember Leslie Notaro here. Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jody Shirley.
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Present.
City Manager Kyle Weefler.
Here.
City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present.
And Councilmember Mike Zabel was unable to attend.
Thank you, Patty. Well, let's just move right on into agenda item number one, which is to review the stormwater improvement project plans. I believe we have a presentation by Gemini Engineering and Sciences Incorporated. Just so everyone knows, this agenda item was placed by City Manager Weefler. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm Larry Flitty. I'm engineer with Gemini. And with me tonight, I have them introduced themselves, but I have Barbara and Justina. And they're engineers, and they actually are the ones that put the plans together. And so between the three of us, we've got the answers and what we're providing. And then, of course, what comes out tonight, we'll be able to continue and prepare bid documents. Okay, well, starting out, we'll review the plans and then answer any questions you might have. And then we can go into what we think a construction cost would be and go through that. And get to.
Everybody should have a set in front of them, and he's gonna pull it up on the screen.
Did you bring a magnifying glass for each of us?
He's gonna zoom in for us.
You want to really double?
Oh, there you go. Beautiful, thank you. Well, they start off at 9th Street. And on that project street, we're proposing to mill and repave.
Which sheet is that on?
It's about 4 or 5 in there.
C1, got it. All right.
Okay, they're not gonna know Mike. Yeah, sorry.
I don't even see page numbers. Oh, there they are.
Yeah. Sheet number.
Yeah, on C1.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Give everybody time to get there.
There we go. Everybody good?
You have the well, it's easy when I'm on the computer screen, you just flip. So anyway, on 9th Street, the project is to mill and repave from the main road to Main Street to Harbor, and then up to the north cul-de-sac here by the building. And so we are not closing and building the top of the road, but just repaving asphalt and the base itself looks good. So we'll be keeping with that, replacing the curb. And then the project, what we're doing is, if you look in this point in the cul-de-sac or the elbow where it bends north on Harbor Drive, we're proposing because to put some inlets on there and also further up to the park, we'll be doing some improvements. But what's happening here is the reason the water's ponding up so high, particularly on high tide and rain events, is this area that I'm circling is a low area. So the street comes down to this point in each direction. So we got flow coming in both directions, and it's puddling there. So what our plan is try to capture the water before it gets there and allow water to overflow, particularly when the tide's up so much, trying to get a surface overflow to an outlet at the actually at the pond down here where discharges out to a little swell, well, not a little swell, but the outlet there. I'll go to the next sheet. And you can see that we're proposing 2 new inlets here. That's the existing outfall for the pond. So these inlets, right now, no water is captured on that road. So we'll be able to capture it here before it gets down to 9th Street. And what I've also seen during the survey, the inlet, I don't know what the inlet that's up at this cul-de-sac here is full of silt, sand, and so it's not working properly. So part of the work will be clearing that and clearing the discharge out so that the water that's accumulated at the this end of the cul-de-sac will be able to discharge where it was intended to go. And the water, as it travels down the curbing to Bush Ninth, will be intercepted by the inlets discharge point. The inlets, additionally, at 9th Street, we'll put some inlets there. And we put in additional inlet and pipe. So this would take care of getting water that can discharge. And as it flows, comes to this point that it has a way out. Now, when the high tide, it may not work as well, but it will work. So since this is kind of a that we're trying to deal with. So that's the what we're proposing. Additionally, there's a curb inlet that doesn't have, it's just kind of closed over on the top. We'll put in a grate top inlet there so that surface water can get to it and can get into the pipe system and discharge out. I think that would be pretty much the items that we can take care of, barring doing regrading of this cul-de-sac here at the end and raising it. But that would be pretty prohibitive. And we figured this I think will help. And I think will intercept the water and then alleviate what's happening down here. When the tide's up and it rains, I think that would be a better benefit than it is now. Yeah.
Looks like on that top plan view that you have up there, as well as the bottom one, there's some additional information on your drawing than we have.
The
Shading that I don't know what that represents. I can't see it from here, but clearly that top.
Driveway.
So you're still on C1, right?
yeah,
Okay. So it looks like there's some additional information, some drawing differential there
okay.
than what we have.
Yeah, but it looks like driveways are pavers are filled in and on yours and they're not on ours. So that's the first thing that we noticed.
Okay.
It's probably the way that it printed versus the PDF.
I think so. I mean, that's it. And working with the printers and trying to get this out. When you want something done, you know how it.
I understand.
But it's there. We will make sure on the PDFs of the plans that we give out and print out,
Okay.
that all of that is clear.
Hey, so I was listening, obviously you're adding several inlets. How many total are you adding?
We're adding 1, 2, 3, 4.
4, okay. And how many are on 9th?
We got 1, 2.
2, okay. All right. That's 4 we should have had all this time and in the history of the city, we've never had a proposal like that. So, okay. Frank,
Yeah, you're talking about raising the grade on the, I call it the spoon. Right now, during high tide, bad rain, that water actually floods from 7th, 8th through the easement into 9th Street because of the pitch. So you couldn't really raise that because then you'd be pushing more water back into 8th and 7th Street. We're putting, as you said, 2 more inlets in.
Yeah.
What are they gonna really do if the water's already backed up?
Trying to get the water that's in the low spot out as quickly as we can.
I understand that, but if
Yeah.
it's high tide. You could put
Yeah.
20, you could put 20 inlets.
Oh,
It's not
you're
gonna
right.
Flow out.
Yeah.
Is there any thought process of putting like a catch basin and a pump in there? Is that?
It'd be finding a place to put it is
You
one.
could probably put it right in that circle area. You could put a neoprene tank in there. And what I'm saying is,
You talking about a below grade tank?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is. These pipes are 75 years old. Probably. I mean,
Yeah,
and the system never really worked 75 years ago.
right.
And concrete has a life expectancy of 75 years and then it starts deteriorating. And that's
Right.
not counting the salt water contamination. If anything's broken,
You realize there's pipes out there that are 125 years. Army Corps of Engineers supports that number, just so you know.
oh, I understand that. I mean, I dug up tree trunks in Philadelphia that were still being used 10 years ago or 20 years ago, that being hollowed out. But what I'm saying is. When the
Yeah,
stormwater pipe is in there, and especially salt water, it contaminates faster, and if the core's ever broken, the rebar even contaminates faster. But what I'm saying is, if we're gonna replace a system that really doesn't work. Have we looked at a system? I'm not talking about every street, maybe we should do a prototype of 9th Street. You know,
right.
yeah,
Okay. Well, that's the thing that's really been kind of bugging me is that this is, dating back, trying to what can we do, with the water and because of the tide and that it's low. And adding in another inlet, I can see, what good is that going to do if we still have the same problem? And I think, looking at, I'll look at the below grade, what additional storage would do. But really, what needs to be done is that bottom, that cul-de-sac, that needs to come up. So is there a way we can raise that enough to where it's not doing any interference with the existing driveways and still get it in there?
and that's what I'm
And work.
saying. You raise that, then you
Yeah.
have another problem down the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we don't want to create another problem, but would that work? And if it works, then what's it going to cost? And how do we implement that? And I would say that would be more advantageous to look at than putting in another inlet. So I agree with you there. I don't know about an underground tank. I'd have to look closer at that. How can we make that work?
Has your firm ever done pumps, underground catches?
Yes, yes. So that needs to be taken a look at, and we'll get back and let you know. Yeah. Okay.
let me ask you one more question about just this particular street. Obviously, whenever you looked at it, you were trying to design something that was cost effective, would aid with the problem.
Right.
You can't solve it all because we are right next to the ocean. But did you take into consideration what happens to the other neighborhoods, like Frank mentioned, that you could create a problem that you just send it somewhere else? Okay, you fix this problem, it's not flooding anymore, but now somebody else's house is now actually underwater.
Yes.
Okay,
That's really our concern, when we don't put two calls or push the ball down the road on the problem, we need to take care of the problem.
and that's the answer I was looking for. I just wanted a little bit of verification.
Sure.
All right. Other questions about 9th Street?
So I'm sorry,
You got it. Go ahead.
on 9th Street, has there already been a time in the recent history where we did replace the pipes?
No, pipes have not. been
No.
replaced in-
But we're not recommending to change any of the pipes on 9th Street right now.
No,
Why is
No.
that?
because they're all in good condition at this point.
Yeah, they're in good condition and their capacity is what's needed, and so they're not under capacity.
So we already videoed all the pipes on 9th Street.
We have, I think. Yep,
Yeah.
did you guys
They-
video
I think
anything
there's
new
a
on
video.
that?
I know on the outside, at the outfall, there's a bunch of barnacles and it needs to be cleaned up, but I had to check to see if we got the video. I can't recall 9th Street at the top of my head. If we have it,
And the reason why he's bringing that up is because we did a project on 12th and 13th Street.
Yeah.
Found out that we had big problems
yeah,
and it was
Multitude.
dramatically higher, more expensive than what we anticipated. But if it solves the problem, then we consider it worth it. So we just want to make sure that if you're recommending not replacing the pipes, that they have been thoroughly inspected and we have nothing to worry about.
right.
How
Well,
old are those pipes, how old are the pipes, do you know?
they're quite old. I mean, these pipes down here, I think the construction plans are like late 60s, early 70s. So they,
Well, I was born in the early sixties and I'm falling apart is when it.
yeah.
Al, do you have anything you want to add on this one?
Yeah,
I'll get you there and I think certainly we'll take a look at what we know in videos of 7th Street, make sure that the pipe is okay and that if it needs to be replaced, then we'll make that recommendation.
Yeah, and we did look at the possibility of trying to increase the size, but what they discovered with the elevations is this piece of pipe that runs from the western side of 9th Street down to the cul-de-sac area is very, very flat. So there's not much room to put anything larger in there.
Right.
Because we were talking about the head pressure on the valve itself and trying to make sure that emptied out and, and we did determine that one of the most crucial things in this location, in this system, is that valve just continues to work. Because if you look at some of the elevations right down in the cul-de-sac, they're like 2 feet and change, which is extremely low. So it doesn't take very much for the tide to come back and start filling that area up with water.
Right.
Another thing I don't think was mentioned was that we are planning to install a check valve at the outfall at the swale. Because we have noticed over time that the retention pond fills from the swale and then backs up into cedar and spruce. So that is on the plans as well.
So that's over here, kind
That is the swale
right?
right over there and it runs
Okay.
into that system.
Any more questions or
Right,
comments?
right in here you're talking about?
What is he pointing?
What's that?
No, he was saying right in here. He was pointing, I think.
Yes.
No. Just some general statements.
Yeah.
So when we did videoing previously, company came out here, they videoed, they gave us their product, they gave us was the results of the videoing. I would feel a lot more comfortable if they gave us a report that basically said, this is what we found, a written report, and here's our recommendation. Because I still believe the expenditures that we went through on 12th and 13th Street did not need to be as high as they were. You're probably more familiar than I am with repairs that can be done to the joints.
Right.
If you have gasket failures, there are companies out there that specialize in that. I don't know how many of you guys and ladies went out there and took a look. I looked at the pipe that was pulled out of the ground. It looked great to me, most of it from 12th and
Yeah, but
13th Street.
I looked at a lot of that and a lot of bells were broken.
Well, they broke them, of course, when they're pulling them out.
I don't know.
But yeah, let's not get into a debate over it.
So I'd like to have the video from supply us again with a written report saying this is what we found at X distance. And at the end of it, here's what we recommend with respect to either replacing pipe or repairing the pipe. Because clearly, if we can get by with a significant decrease in expenditures to repair the pipes, if there's some, gasket failures out there, there are companies that specialize in that come around both from the inside and the outside. You're probably familiar with those, I would hope, where they take care of those, as long as the pipe is structurally sound. And from what I saw, the pipe we took out on 12th and 13th, structurally sound, most of it. So, again, all you need is a little bit of a gasket failure at the joint. And the sediment starts pouring in there. And if it's underneath a road, you're going to have a big pothole, sinkage area, things like that. And people think, wow, the pipe must have collapsed. No, not necessarily. Could be a simple gasket failure that could have been replaced from the inside and the outside. The pipe was structurally sound, saves the city a lot of money. If it can last another 50 or 60 years, that's a long time.
Yeah. I think, in reviewing the videos, we got pipe that are, really encrusted with barnacles, and some look pretty good, and not a whole lot of cleaning is needed.
I think what would be helpful for us, I'm gonna kind of get us through this.
Yeah.
Your presentation.
Sure.
What might be helpful is if you have video recordings of every street that we discuss, it'd be nice to put them someplace to where we can actually just take a look, because normally you'll see there's, they'll put little diagrams up there. Oh, here's a problem, here's a failure, here's a crack, here's a seam messing up. And then that way, whenever we're voting on this, then we know whether we need to, the council will have more information. And really, you don't know what you don't know. It's just going on what you're saying, but this council likes to see things sometimes.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't blame you. We have videos, but we don't have them on all the streets. So we have to look at that and do that. And I would feel much better if I could see what it is that we're doing. If it's in good shape and we don't have to do a lot, then let's just do what's necessary.
Absolutely.
If it's in there and it's good, that's great. And we got ways of fixing those, and besides slip lining and the internal bands and
Right.
jackets, and then you can externally, if there's access and not a lot of vegetation, go down and grout some polymers to kind of close that seal as well. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other comments on 9th Street?
Okay.
Everybody good? All right. Please continue, sir.
Okay, thank you. Well, the other next group of 3 streets we'll show you is the ones that are behind here. So there's Cedar and Spruce and Palm. And those streets, these 3 streets, which are on sheets, read the number, but they're the next sheets, but those 3 sheets were mill and replacing the curb.
Okay.
So there's no drainage needed, but that's the primary job for those 3 sheets.
Right. Any questions about those 3?
Yeah, and I know they do have some backflow problems. Kyle, you probably know better than I do from maybe citizens contacting you. When I first came on board, there was a gentleman that called me. And again, high tide, boom, comes back this way, goes to the pond and then backs up. And I don't remember what street it was. I think it was probably Cedar.
Probably Cedar.
And then the water comes up into that cul-de-sac and just sits there, of course, until the high tide goes down, and then it comes back out again.
Okay.
So obviously, we don't have a concrete outfall there that we can put a check valve on there, right? Or
It's
is there a
connected
place?
to the swale I was talking about with the check valve, so it all runs through
Yeah.
the same system. It did improve when we dredged out that retention pond.
Okay,
But having a check valve at the outfall of the swale will completely
stop that.
stop the tidal water.
beautiful, beautiful. Okay,
Any other?
They're all draining into that swamp.
Into the retention pond behind the tennis courts,
yeah. So on high tide, the check valve would stop that.
yes.
Beautiful.
And that's the one over on the Ninth Street system.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? This is pretty straightforward.
Yep.
All right,
The next sheet, we'll start on 14th. And 14th will well and repave along with the curb. And leaving we're leaving the inlets and the pipe there's to remain,
The pipes what? I'm sorry.
the pipe. The existing pipe,
Mhm.
those seem to be okay, but we're gonna verify that.
Okay,
like we
good.
talked about. And so those pipes and those inlets. We'll leave those in place, and mainly it's mill and repave.
All right,
Kyle, have there been any questions or comments or discussions about the center of the cul-de-sac? I know that this comes up from time to time, and I didn't know if the residents had a problem with the median, whatever you want to call it, little island in the cul-de-sac. Occasionally that does come up.
Yeah, we had that on Harrison. I remember where we kind of came up with a solution. Not on any of these from 14th to 18th have I heard any issue. The only thing that was asked, which we've done on 15th, is kind of cleaned it up, put some more drought tolerant plants in there and some rocks to try to prevent certain trucks from trying to drive.
Is it a general feel we want to keep this thing, or do we even know?
I haven't heard one way or the other, but I don't.
It seems to me that it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to ask the residents in that cul-de-sac if they still want it or not, because if we're doing this, now is the time to change it. Is that correct?
Yes,
So, thoughts on that?
I mean, we need to be more expensive, but
Yeah, you think it'd be way more expensive, or would it just be a little more expensive? It's not huge, is it?
why would you want to remove it?
Well, every time that we have this conversation, there's always someone who gets shafted with their driveway. I don't know what it's like here. What happened over on Harrison was the driveway was uphill. And big trucks would come in and they can't make it around this feature.
Okay,
And so what happens is they get so far and then they back up and their bumper hits the driveway. Now, that may not be the case here.
Right.
But it could very well be that there's no issue at all, but I think as long as we're doing this and we're gonna churn it all up anyway, let's make sure that they're really happy with it. If we don't need it, then that just makes it
yeah.
easier in the future.
Mayor? It's Jody. Can I say something?
Yes,
Why would we create an issue that's not an issue right now? I mean, it's not part of our strategic plan is beautification and paving over landscape areas. I don't think is part of our strategic plan. And if no one's bringing the issue up, why would we?
yeah, you're probably right.
Wasn't there a resident, I'm not sure what street it was, but he was complaining exactly what you said.
Yeah, it's Harrison.
that's Harrison.
No, I thought it was another one.
See, I agree with the beauty, but it's probably not a bad idea to at least ride down these neighborhoods that have this and just look at their driveway and see if it's chewed up. And if it's not, just don't worry about it and move on. But I actually had a couple of residents that were a slight bickering over one of these features, and city manager Riefler remembers that problem. again, I'm probably just overthinking it, but we might as well at least look at it and make sure that we don't see evidence of trucks backing up and running all over their curb.
I think it
And just
also serves as a traffic calming device. When you're driving down that road, you know, it slows you down, which is a good thing.
Yep.
You know, so you have to slow down to go around that turn. If there's nothing there, I mean, I could see me just doing all sorts of crazy things coming around. I come to
You're
the
gonna do
end.
that anyway.
But you can't, I mean, I've gone down to the streets many, many times, and because that item is there, whatever you want to call it, you slow down. You definitely slow down as you're going around that circle, that cul-de-sac, and you come out the other end. You know, the biggest trucks that we continually have are the garbage trucks. I guess they must get around that thing
The
fine.
garbage trucks do fine.
Okay,
Because they put a little more care. It's usually the trucks that aren't there every day that are the ones driving over.
It's construction
which
trucks are
doesn't
the biggest
happen,
problem.
doesn't happen often, construction trucks, right? I mean, all this stuff's built out. I'm sure there's some things that go on where somebody is paying for some work done in their garage or something that could have a larger vehicle there. But for the most part, it's the garbage trucks. And just like you said, they're careful, they go around that and there's no issues. But I get what you're saying, Dave. Every once in a while, there might be a construction.
It's just a matter of riding by there and
Yep.
deciding whether it's really a problem or something we want to discuss further. And thank you, Ms. Livingstone, for your point of view also.
May I add one more thing? It's Jody, actually, but is
Sure.
that, yes, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
The resident at the end of Harrison that fought to keep the landscape island was fearful of people driving straight into her driveway because the road ends into her driveway. So it does, although it might solve some potential issue for a truck turnaround, it does give people direct access into those driveways at the end of the cul-de-sac. Just something to think about when we're looking at it.
That's true, and the solution we came up with on your street was to actually just reduce the size a little bit to give trucks a little more room to make that turnaround.
Which could be better.
Anything else on the street? No, all right. Please continue, sir.
Okay, 15th Street.
Just a quick note on 14th Street that from the north inlet out to the seawall is lined with the cure in place. So that has been repaired. It's gonna hold up well for a long time. And then the nice thing about the cure in place is we don't see the barnacles accumulating on the plastic as fast as they do on the concrete.
So how long ago was that done?
That was done in 2000, is either 18 or 19.
Okay,
It's
good.
pretty soon.
And we have a video of that as well.
Hmm.
Thank you. Okay, now on the 15th.
Okay, 15th Street. Okay, on 15th, again, we're milling and repaving. And from the main road down to the cul-de-sac.
All right.
And here we're proposing cleaning barnacles out of the pipes and leaving the existing pipe in as is. Because and then the existing inlets, those will be remaining in place as well.
Okay.
So this is primarily a mill and repave.
And we talked about each inlet on these streets, and the ones, they're in good condition and there's not any signs of flow issues. So that's the reason we didn't feel it was necessary to change it to the grate style inlet.
Right. Because one of the benefits that we found with the newer grates that we put in was a lot of the debris, you know, was going down into the pipes. As opposed to the newer grates we put in there prevented that. But then
Right.
sometimes that gets plugged up right there at the grate, but you guys maintain it well.
Yeah, as long as it's maintained.
Right.
There's a gentleman that lives there on the lower one, the lower inlet, and his driveway is completely underwater at times.
Mhm.
Why, because it's clogged or?
I don't know.
I mean,
So-
the residents should be cleaning those out themselves too, those grates.
I've seen residents that put down all their tree trimmings on top of the
Yeah.
grates,
Hmm.
which is brilliant.
Anything else on this one?
That's it. And we'll go on to 16th.
Right.
16th. That one dead ends into the park. But it's again, it's a mill and repave and replacing the curbing. The existing pipes and the inlets, they remain as is. So pretty much like 14th.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any questions or comments on that one? All right.
all right. 17th Street. Again, mill and repave and curb replacement. Leaving the pipe in place and also the inlets, leaving those in place. And pretty much repaving and replacing the curbing on this one as well.
Okay. So just so you know, we're getting close to my street, which is the most important street in this whole project, so.
Oh, we got a lot of stuff going on there.
Didn't we pull that street from?
May I ask a question? This is Jody. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, where we're leaving all
I
these,
can't see, I can't see you on the screen or anything, so I'm just having to just chime in whenever you'd like.
yeah, I know I keep raising my hand and because no one's paying attention, so sorry. But where we're leaving the inlets as they exist, is there any way to add a grate to stop like the palm fronds from flowing into them? That's question number one. Question number two is, will we be replacing any of the concrete covers to them because many of those are failing?
For the ones that we're replacing, there'll be a brand new inlet with a grate type top. The ones that are remaining, we've looked at, we think if they're damaged, then of course we would replace that inlet. If they're not damaged, then we just left it in and utilize it.
But how do you determine whether one is ready to be replaced or not? What's the, just, I'm curious.
Visual inspection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Corrosion or,
Well, they're concrete, these tops, so they'll last for a while, but if they look like they're spalling, maybe the rebar is getting rusting and expanding
okay.
and you'll see the cracks and you'll see the red ooze coming out of it. But we'd look for that. And if it looks like it's like a fresh, well, not a fresh, but a poured piece of concrete with no damage, then pretty much it's intact.
Okay.
We had ones on 12th and 13th actually collapsed right into the inlet. Yeah.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
So was
Well,
that
from
a,
maintenance standpoint-
was
I'm
that a
sorry.
no on the grate being added? I didn't get an answer for that. Is there
Sorry, Vice Mayor Shirley, could you say that again, please?
Is there any way to add a grate to these inlets that we're leaving in place that don't have grates, so we can eliminate some of the palm fronds and yard debris that flows into them?
That's adding a grate at the existing inlet.
That's my question. Yes.
Replacing the concrete top with a grate top.
No, she's keeping the same style, like the curb style inlet, but putting some sort of grate to keep debris out of going into the box.
Okay. Well, the short answer is yes, but I'm not sure of where we can find that, of what's the dimensions? Can it work without replacing the box? That's what, these things kind of piece together.
You'd have to pour no new box.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to have to pour a new box, but if there's no top that's going to fix it,
Right there.
then you have to pour a new box.
So 12th and 13th, they had grates. I believe, don't they?
They were different style. They had grates, kind of like almost a hybrid of a curb inlet and a grate inlet, but the grates are so deteriorated, they're just falling through.
Okay, so you had to put the grates in.
We change them to the F type.
I got you.
And like that.
They're good.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because some of these, the opening is large enough for a small child to just fall
Yeah.
right into. They're extremely unsafe. It's, you know, when we're talking about community safety, it's a problem. And I know it sounds kind of like Larry, you kind of acted like that was a crazy statement, but anything can be done. You know, I know in the construction business, I would just bring someone out there and build it for me. It just isn't a big deal to add a grate to something, but it's something we probably should look at for safety purposes.
Yeah, I agree with Jody. I think two things. It would be safety. I take my grandkids off of my street. We walk across the street to the beach. And when we're going past that, I make a conscious effort to make sure that they are not even close to that. Because I have two-year-olds and I'm confident if they fell, they would go into that. They're small enough to fall into that. So you're visualizing what we're talking about, that there's some type of a screen grate, for lack of a better term, that would just go over that. That would do two things. It would stop a lot of the palm frond stuff, you know, from going down in there. From a maintenance standpoint, do you see that causing much of a problem?
So I just keep the openings big enough that it's not getting blocked up too easily by debris.
Right? But once that goes into the system and then goes into the pipes, does it ever get jammed up in there, which?
Typically it's when the barnacle oyster buildup gets to the point that debris gets caught where it'll pile up and plug. I think the biggest inlets that we have that are, well, they're not ours, but the counties on Gulf Boulevard would be the
Correct.
biggest ones that a child could fall
Correct.
into.
Yeah.
Just,
But that would definitely happen if we put some type of a grate over that. It would,
I've seen
it would stop,
fabricated grates.
it would stop debris right there, similar to like the new grates that we put in on 12th and 13th Street, that you guys have to go around after a big storm and make sure you're cleaning that off. Otherwise, the grate just gets plugged up. Right?
Yeah, and I've seen that kind of design where they put some kind of grate in front of an opening curb inlet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the goal is, it's okay to have to clean out a grate, but it's not okay to have to clean out a pipe.
Right. I agree. Yeah. So right now, a lot of that stuff is going into the system.
Right, a lot of it does come out. But yeah, that's usually when you get that buildup enough that it gets a full plug from like organic material, like branches or something, that's when you get that back up. And typically what we do is the vac truck has to come out and
Correct.
blast it.
Okay. So we just contract that out, have them come in and
Yes.
take care of it. The county doesn't do that for us, or do they?
No,
Okay.
no,
They have back
that's
trucks, right?
they do. Yeah.
Maybe we could steal it.
Any other
Can we
questions,
just,
comment?
yeah, can we-
Vice Mayor?
can we just take another look at those grates and maybe try to, wherever we're doing improvements, look at trying to be uniform throughout the city? I know on Harrison, there's one that's a huge, I mean, there's got to be 18 inches or greater that you could lose an animal down it if there was a heavy, rainstorm. And, I know we're not focusing on Harrison, but I'm just saying if there's one on Harrison, there's got to be many throughout the city. Maybe take a second look at those inlet boxes and grates. We're doing this, let's do it right, so we don't have an issue.
Yeah, one of the issues that we may run into is whenever you're trying to permanently install a piece of hardware like that into an older grain, it may start crumbling and cracking. So it would have to be some kind of a hybrid device that so heavy you just lay it on it or so. I don't know. I don't know what would be the answer, but I think you understand what it is that she's recommending, and I think everyone agrees with. That's probably something we should look into.
I think we can put together some options of whether we're, finding a device to go in front of it, on what that would cost versus changing the box out itself. And then you can just line up what the cost of all that would be.
So those drains that are right there on Gulf Boulevard,
Mm.
Kyle, so are those owned by the county? Those are the
Yes,
county drains?
Yes.
So if we ask them to, they would probably take that on, right? I mean, it's their,
Their decision,
inlet.
yes. Yes, so
We say
You
we
could
want
ask.
some from a safety reason, we want these things taken care of.
Well, this is two completely separate projects. One is you've got something that you would like to see resolved that the county owns, and then the rest of it is what we're trying to resolve tonight. And whatever we come up with, you know, we may not get the same solution from the county, but we can certainly ask. Okay. Anything else on 17th Street? Vice Mayor, are you okay with that?
Yes, I just asked that we take a look at it and try to resolve those issues.
Okay. Hey, 18th Street. 18th Street, same work, mill and replace and repave, replace the curbing. And here, at the end, at the cul-de-sac, we're replacing the inlets. And also the we're also removing the existing check valve there as well.
What's the purpose of that? Why are we removing a check valve?
Well, I think it's more of a case of relocating it, much more than just removing it. And I think the issue is that the city is saying that when you have the check valve in at the inlet, it doesn't stop the barnacle growth and debris on the downstream end. And they would prefer to have those check valves out on the seawall.
Oh, so I see now. So you're
Yeah.
effectively moving the check valve.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
and the reason it's in the box right now is because the pipe that's sleeved at the seawall is a metal corrugated pipe that is falling apart, and it just was impossible to get a valve in there. The way that the actual outfall is shaped. So we put one in the box to prevent the tidal backflow, but it'd be much more beneficial, and they have it to repair the outfall so that the valve can be placed at the end of the pipe.
Mhm.
And it also gives you more holding capacity for the rainwater.
And that's also a good point, is that there's some outfalls that we are replacing, and this being one of them, where the CMP pipe is just totally corroded. And so we'll be replacing those, and then they would be in shape to take the check valve at that location.
Okay,
Any questions or comments on the 18th?
The long expanse of pipe that's going from the south inlet to the seawall, that's going to get slip line, because that one has been inspected to have infiltration and
And what?
damage. It's damaged,
Okay.
so that it is leaking into that pipe.
Yeah, that one there, we have it, planned to be slip line, out from that inlet out to the seawall.
so on 18th Street, the only inlet that is there now is, there's just one, right?
Too.
There's two.
Okay, so that other one is existing. So it says, so the 18-inch pipe that goes across the street there, that's already there as well?
Yeah,
Okay,
and that needs to be cleaned out because the camera that was full of debris. That needs to be cleaned out.
okay,
Well, let me make one clarification. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a 15-inch pipe now. We're going to replace it with an 18.
yeah, because it's proposed 18-inch pipe. Okay,
Okay.
got it.
You lost me. I thought you were putting a slip line in there.
No, that's.
The slip line will be from the last inlet down to the seawall.
Okay.
Okay,
Any other questions or comments on 18th?
it may help just to put that existing 15-inch pipe on the drawing.
Okay,
So we know there's an existing pipe there and you're proposing to replace it with an 18.
Yeah, part of the plans will be the survey, and the survey shows it as the 15.
Okay,
And but we can add that note into there and also refer them to the survey as well.
okay.
All right, 19th.
Okay. 19th Street, there were mill and repave along with replacing the curb. And this is where it makes a jog to the north. And that's the existing pipe will be remaining. And the inlets looked okay, so those will be remaining as well.
Questions?
So what about Bay Shore that connects 19th and 20th? Is that being addressed at all? I mean, it looks like that was done.
That was newer asphalt and curbing.
Yeah.
So no, that scored higher on our street index.
Okay,
So you can see where we ended the asphalt and it varies per street that's crossing Bay Shore. And that's mainly of the way that the damaged curb and asphalt that, we took it to where it made sense to stop.
got it.
So this one bends around on the Bay Shore Road just because that curb was damaged.
Yeah.
That far down the road.
Okay,
Please continue.
Okay, 20th. On 20th, this one ends at the park as well, but it's mill and repave and replacing the curb. There are no pipes on this stretch. And I think that's pretty much the work.
so it stops here, the paving just before it gets to
Bay Shore.
Bay Shore.
Shore.
Yeah, it stops
Right.
before that where the new pavement is.
Right,
Mhm.
I have a question. In most of these streets up in this area of Bel Air Beach, they're not really your normal gutter. The street is level with the grass and then you've got a concrete, maybe just a little bit. Is anything changing on that or are we just doing the same thing again?
Well, it's going to be the valley type curb that's there, and so the edge of the curving of the concrete will be the edge of the pavement. So it'll look a little different, but and there depending on what the elevation is on the back side of that between the curb and the lawn, there'll probably be some sodding that we'll have to do in there to make it better. It won't look like it is now, but it'll look like you see the valley curving
sure.
next to the road and then sod.
Okay.
Okay,
And especially down at this east end of 19th is where we talked about. It was the curb there is like flat concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that is.
I don't know what it does.
It's
Western.
That's being replaced.
It's pretty much
Yeah.
a Smurf sidewalk or something.
Yes. Okay. Ready for the next?
Yes.
Okay. 21st. 21st here is we're doing mill and repaving and curb replacement.
No plumbing.
No plumbing. And in the plans at the end, you'll see some outfalls because the pipe are kind of in between the streets up in this area. And so we, at the end of these, we got outfall plans to show what we're proposing for those outfalls. Okay, any questions or go on?
I think you can continue.
Okay, 22nd.
I brought up 22nd. This is that south east corner, when we milled and repaved, it's part of the curb that's sunken in, that kind of puddles. More so than any other place. It's optional, but I thought we were out there, because it was brought up when we did resurface, why we didn't take care of that spot.
Okay,
That's just,
Is that, okay, so it's sunken. I know it makes a puddle. It actually covers more than half the street at times. Is that going to solve the problem?
Well, we'll make sure we don't, I can't answer that straight on, but it should.
Okay,
But we'll take a closer look at the survey to make sure, because where it comes around that corner, it's going down to those inlets that's further down the street.
Mhm.
And so, let me check the grades on those, but it should do, because, it should fix it.
right.
And,
It's probably a combination of events happening, but it's always in a torrential downpour that
yeah,
there's a brief period in time to where that intersection is underwater.
okay, I'm making my notes here. I'll make sure that works.
Thank you. Any other comments on this one? All right. 23rd,
Okay. 23rd, it's mill and repaving along with curb replacement.
basically, Bay Shore is taking care of all the runoff from these streets.
yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Right.
there's some out there like on 20th Street, our street basically. From the midpoint of the street going towards Bay Shore, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
To base
from the
on
midpoint, it actually flows towards Gulf Boulevard.
Towards goal.
I mean, all that water goes into the county's inlet drain there.
Good.
And then the other half goes toward the Bay Shore.
So you got a double. Outlet. You got half
Correct.
going one way, half, that's
Correct.
great.
Yeah.
Why can't we have that, Kyle?
And people said that wasn't true. But in the, some people I talked to up here, they said, no, it all goes one direction. I said, well, no, it doesn't. Because I watch it flow.
Ours does.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them,
All right.
Any questions about 23rd? All right, moving right along.
Okay, 24th. On 24th Street, it's the same thing, mill and replace and replacing the curb. And no drainage pipe at the end of the street as well.
Council? No. All right. 25th.
25th. On 25th, we're doing same thing, we're doing mill and replacement. And also replacing the curb. And here, there's the park at the end of this street. And the intersection, is it Hibiscus there? So we'll be curbing around that as well and repaving.
Okay. Excellent.
Council? All right, Morgan Drive.
Okay, Morgan. Same thing, we're doing the mill and replacement of the pavement and the replacing of the curb. And then we'll do the milling and the curb replacing after radius turns to Hibiscus. And then we're stopping just short of Bay Shore. And also, just excuse my eyes, but there's the drainage improvements on this one. I got a thing here that's I got it something here sticking up, stop. Oh, no, anyway, the How can I get this back up? Get that? There, okay. All right, there we go. Well, let me look up here because this has got a thing. Yeah. What we're doing here, there's an existing pipe that goes down from the intersection of Hibiscus and that pipe is remaining. We're also keeping in place the existing inlet there and on Morgan, and then it turns and goes out to the intercoastal to the north behind between the property lines. That is remaining as well. What we'll be doing is it's got indications of barnacles, so we'll be cleaning the barnacles out of that. And that goes out to the seawall,
It goes out where?
out to the seawall on, what is it, at the intercoastal?
Okay. So no new pipe in there.
No new pipes.
Okay.
And I'm seeing that we touch Victoria Avenue and on both, I believe. Looking at this correctly. Yes, are we doing anything with Victoria? Kyle?
Victoria.
It says Victoria Avenue, not Victoria Ave.
No, that's hibiscus. That's,
Hibiscus.
The wrong street on there?
I was trying to figure out where is Victoria, but it's on every.
that's on the survey. And we're getting that fixed.
Okay, well, actually, I meant hibiscus. I kept reading Victoria, but
Yeah.
are we doing anything with hibiscus?
No, just stopping everything at the radius return.
Yep, hibiscus was like Bay Shore where, especially those segments, the condition wasn't horrible on our street index.
Right,
We were more up in the
Wow.
green.
Okay.
that's fine.
Ah,
Any questions or comments on that one? And how we got Victoria?
Survey found it.
I thought I knew the city somewhat when you were saying Victoria. I was like, never been there.
Well, yeah,
Right.
I knew where it was.
Right.
I didn't know who it was. Okay,
Right.
we're on the next page. Go right ahead.
Okay, now we're at the outfalls. And here we've got 12th and 13th. Where we're indicating clearing the barnacles. And we may want to, we're also looking at possible slip line or something to help the joints.
Yep, this is left on the last project where we talked about,
Correct.
we come through when we're doing the other slip lining, come back and hit these streets.
So do you recommend a slip line where my understanding is another pipe would actually go in there or cured in place?
A slip line or a cured in paste,
Okay.
what you've been doing.
Okay.
And at the outlets there at 2020 Bay Shore and 2015. Then again, the main thing is to clean out those pipes and clean the barnacles away.
Yep, and that these two, we know that there is damage, we're washing into the pipe, and that's
On the
why
end.
from the inspection, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I think, I don't know if it's at 2020, it may be at 2205, yeah. That video, well, when we get there, but it's interesting what happened there. Okay, are we ready to go to the next sheet?
Sure.
Okay. On 2205, 2307, and the other outfalls, it's cleaning the barnacles. And the interesting thing that we're seeing on 2205, And look at the video, this one's got a video. You see where the pipe takes a turn and goes out to the seawall?
Yep.
Well, the concrete pipe ends at the straight part. And what they did is they bent the CMP to come out to the seawall. And that, that outfall needs to be there from the seawall to where the concrete pipe meets.
Right.
It either needs to be slip line or replaced. But it looked like it was okay in slip lining that small section there would, because it really, something needs to be done at that turn.
Is there a way right there at that intersection of the corrugated metal pipe and the concrete pipe?
Yeah,
Can it end there if we just remove the CMP?
no, because it would be behind the seawall.
Okay, so why didn't they just go straight? It was just shorter?
Property line.
Yeah.
Okay,
What,
The,
what is your recommendation? You say something needs to be done here. Well, what's the best solution?
My judgment on that is verifying the condition of the CMP. So if the CMP in the metal it's not rusted, but it's sound, then slip line would be what we would recommend. If that pipe is not sound, then replace that section of CMP with the same material and then out the existing hole, so keeping the pipe the same, just replace that section of pipe.
Okay, so you just didn't you didn't point anything out on the drawing. That's why I'm asking.
No, this was late night study
Okay,
and making sure that, we're reviewing this and what we're showing. And that's one that popped out last night
I see.
in reviewing that, and that looking at that section, we need to determine the pipe's structural soundness. And then we can decide what to do from that point.
Okay, would it be possible to see pictures of this also whenever you?
Yeah, I have them here. I just
You
got to
do?
pull them up. Yeah.
Nice.
Let's
is
see.
there a junction box there where
Yeah.
they actually connected
Yeah,
corrugated metal pipe to the concrete pipe?
yeah. If I can you help
Would it
me
make
get
sense to put a
onto?
junction box there and then put another concrete pipe replacing the corrugated metal pipe out to the wall?
This is somebody's yard. I think that's the problem. How old is that corrugated pipe?
Get to my zip drive.
We don't waste that long.
Flex seal?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. There we go. I get,
Take a look at it.
I mean, is it functioning now, Kyle? I mean, does it get pretty good
What street is
outflow?
this?
Does function. I've seen it.
Yeah, but obviously it's eventually gonna be a problem, so I think we should do something.
So we don't have anything connected to the end of that pipe.
let's see.
That
if I-
pipe,
No,
Just off the back.
no,
of
just
it.
right out. We got pictures of it.
I had it. I just gotta find it. Ah, here it is. There it is. Can you see that on the screen? What you're seeing right immediately, let's see, right
Bigger.
here. That's the end. That's this joint section of the concrete. Then you got this pipe that goes out, and what's happening in here is kind of hard to see, but that's where the pipe is, CMP is bent and turned towards the seawall. So it looks good up until that point.
Oh.
And the the video went out to the opening of the seawall. But we just got to make sure that that pipe there, this section of pipe that's in here, that it's in good shape. If it's in good shape, then the solutions are either slip slide up to the concrete pipe or replace the pipe.
Replace the corrugated metal pipe?
Yeah.
With what?
CMP, but you have to look at the existing opening.
Mhm.
You know, if it's easiest just to replace what's there. Looking at that section of pipe, I give a CMP. I think what they bent that metal pipe
Mhm.
to make it fit through the hole. To put concrete, would have to put a manhole in, and
Right.
so it can turn
Gotcha.
and go out.
All right.
So you think they cut and spliced? You think they cut and spliced that pipe?
Yeah,
How far back is it from the opening?
about 12 feet. It's not far.
So are there bushes there, Kyle? I mean, if we did put a manhole there, junction box type of a deal, is that area sort of covered?
Yeah, most of these areas are
It's not in
covered.
the middle of their yard, obviously. They wouldn't say, heck.
Yeah,
I don't want
that's
that.
right on the property line. There's a lot of plants.
Is
Okay.
the metal
Yeah.
pipe on the property line or is it on our?
Well, there's a utility easement that exists on the plat. But most of these right on the property line, people either have walls, fences,
Yeah.
shrubs, all stuff.
We can get to that without going through illegal.
I would have to check with Randy. We haven't done it yet. But theoretically, yes.
Just to pull 12 feet out wouldn't be much.
Mhm.
You know, and do it right. Especially if it's a metal pipe.
That's really the only one that's that has any real problems to it. Everything else looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
All right. Vice Mayor Shirley, do you have any comments?
No, I'm in agreement with Frank that if there's any way to remove that pipe and put a junction box in there, I think it would be the best way to go. But short of that, I'll leave that to the engineers to figure out.
You don't know how old that is, do you? That pipe?
Probably as old as the other, late 60s, early 70s. We can look at junction box or maybe a grate inlet. And then make that turn at that point. So there's,
I'm just thinking that if it was cut and bent. It's gotta be rotten, that cut.
that's my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even if they welded it back then, if it was galvanized, it just popped and.
Now, that more than likely it needs to be really replaced.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Mr. Reefer, do you have any comments?
My only last comment is on a lot of these, especially down Bay Shore where we have the notes of clear barnacles and debris. I wanted to make sure, like, when we thoroughly clean out these pipes that we have an option to, if we find that there is some damage, to put like a cure in place pipe at that time. Kind of like when we were doing 12th and 13th and we discovered it, just to have some money, contingency money set aside so that if we do identify a problem, then we can, while they're out there,
Okay, but, and just curious, from beginning to end, what time frame are we looking at on completion of this entire project?
I think for construction, it was a year.
yeah.
We wanted to give it on.
For the construction.
All right.
Starting when?
pending.
As soon as we can get it up to bid.
Well,
Yeah, once we decide and bid it out.
you wouldn't start before November though. would you?
Huh?
Hurricane. Storm season is right here.
At this point, it's gonna be closer to November, yeah. Cause we gotta, we're gonna need at least a month to bid, but we're still kind of redesigning a little bit for considerations.
Well, it looks like the city will be in pretty good shape, at least much, much better than we were in the past. And I think that this was a good idea and I'm looking forward to seeing it get kicked off and get started. Any other comments on this? Yes.
So there's very little pipe, a new additional pipe that's going in. Is that an accurate statement, you feel like?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Was there any consideration for that little pipe that we're gonna be using for maybe a for HDPE as opposed to concrete pipe?
Can you, and short answer is yeah. HDPE can be, particularly in these areas where we're not underneath the pavement. I worry about HDPE under pavement, particularly here, because it would not be if it was deeper, but it's not that big a depth, and you got the big trucks that come down. I worry about how the HDPE will respond to those loads at the depth that they are. So
Well, I
we
know
have to
certain-
look at that.
I know there's certain companies and certain types of HDPE that are approved by FDOT.
Right.
That they put out on the highways. So pretty large trucks there. I don't know specifically what they require with cover. For
Yeah.
that, but there's a lot out there.
Yeah, I know FDOT's got it. I'm not sure if they use it underneath the pavement.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure,
If they do,
Yeah.
then great, then,
but it's the double wall,
yeah.
double wall, so it's pretty strong. It's been tested a lot.
Well, I can check that
Yeah.
and for that,
So
but
maybe we could have, when the contractor's submitting a bid, what's the term I'm looking for? My blood sugar's getting low.
approved alternate,
Alternate bid. Yeah, they can do an all bid for the material just to see how that costs out.
yeah, we can do that.
All right,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
And the asphalt, yeah, I wanted to talk about the asphalt because I'm a big believer in, we don't want to we want to do this to last as long as possible. So what's the best asphalt we can put on those roads? Clearly, most of our roads are automobiles. However, the biggest truck that causes the most problems is the garbage truck because it's stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. And if we have, I could drive on the roads now that were just done on 12th and 13th, and there's a lot of heaving and stuff going on there. I'm
Right.
sure it's from the garbage truck, especially when it's as hot as it is.
Mm.
I don't know what type number they used for that, but I know like on Gulf Boulevard, when you see where it meets, they have a lot of granite in that. So I don't know what that grade is.
Gulf-
My only,
Yeah.
I would like to see us use the best and strongest possible asphalt, or at least get some different bids.
You could put airport grade down there, but it looks like crap.
Well, if you look at Gulf Boulevard,
Yeah.
look at Gulf Boulevard where they tie into our streets, and that's been there for a while, I'm guessing. I don't know when they resurfaced Gulf. But so here it comes off of Gulf, boom, they cut it off. And then our pavement starts. And their pavement it has a lot of granite in it. You can see it. And that really is strong stuff. Because
that's an FDOT road.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, they're using super pave
Okay,
is the type materials, I think is what that is. And that's, I think the DOT started approving it like in the mid-90s, 96, 97.
okay,
And but there is a type, they call it super pave.
okay.
Now, I don't know how much it would cost. How much more is it different from the county standard pavement section? And
Right.
which is the DOT's asphaltic concrete, what's the difference between that and the super pave or any other brand, but I'd have to find out what those.
Yeah,
costs
maybe
are.
again, that would be a good fit for an alternate bid. You
Right.
know, if we're gonna. put
That would,
Yeah, it's cost of this. If you're gonna put in super pave, it's gonna cost this.
yeah,
And then perhaps at that time, you guys can tell us, what's the benefit? You know,
Yeah.
What's the lifespan of one versus the other? So if one lasts
right.
20 more years, just to pick a number,
But there's that information's out, and I can get that out as far as,
okay,
and actually, the difference between asphalt and super pave is how it's mixed, how it's not a hot mix, it's mixed a little different. And so, and it's got, it can either be coarse or fine, grains, material,
right,
depending on how coarse you want your surface. So we can research that out.
perfect.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Can I just add, I just want to say though, the FDOT requirements are much different than what we would need in our interior streets. And typically what you're looking at there is that big rock, and it's a lot different mix, you're right. But it also is built to accommodate heavy traffic flow. And we aren't dealing with heavy traffic flow on our interior roads. So I don't want to, I think it's great to do the research, but I think we just need to be careful not to spend too much money on road systems that aren't required.
That's why we can see the ultimate bid.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And that's, when we're looking at pavement, what kind of alternatives, is it appropriate for a residential community street
Mm.
in the type of loads and traffic that we have there? It's a lot different than I-275 on the pavement that they put there. It'll be a different pavement.
The
And-
entire process is different. It
Yes.
requires different machinery.
Right.
They're set up for a long run.
It is different machinery, it's a different way, laying asphalt, so
But go,
it's appropriate for these streets, and that's what I gotta figure it out.
Go Boulevard, I didn't see that laid, but I'm sure it was not very complicated for them to, whatever pavement they put out there on Gulf Boulevard.
Yeah.
And it's strong. And again, I get it. If you have big 18-wheelers going on the interstate or some of these other roads, but they're going, 65 miles an hour. They're not stopping like these garbage trucks. When they go stop, go, hit the brakes every 20 feet. That's a heavy load that's pushing on that soft asphalt.
Right,
And that's what creates heaving, and then you have potholes, and then you're wondering 3 years later, we just did this. Yeah,
exactly,
that type of thing.
right.
I don't know if you're gonna really prevent that, like the asphalt. I mean, you're underlaying your bases with your whole.
And I'm sure the technology, asphalt is continuously changing. The different grades, and they're working on it. People are way smarter than me. And
And
We
what's
just need
the
to find
ton of
out.
asphalt going for today compared to a yard, what's a yard of concrete, 200 a yard now? And I mean,
Let's see, asphalt. What's the?
What do you guys look
Now that you
for?
asked that
Better-
question,
A good, better, best? Is that what you're looking for?
and see what the cost differential is, yeah. Because we know what we already use, like on 12th and 13th Street. So that,
I
that
mean,
costs X.
if you want something that doesn't wear out, you concrete it, but I mean, I don't know if.
But it wears out too.
Yeah, but not like Jody was saying. I mean, if DOT says you have to have, it has to handle over 100,000 cars a
Yeah.
day. At least, or 300,000, depending on what it is, but concrete on a street probably would last longer than us.
Kind of what's.
yeah, the asphalt's going, just over $400 a ton.
Asphalt
Yeah,
and concrete's 200 a yard or.
concrete's, it's less than that. So probably somewhere around upper 200s to 300.
Now, what's our average life expectancy on this project after it's done?
As far as the roads, I mean, you look at some of our roads, they were paved in the early 2000s, they're still in good condition, so. I mean, again, I guess it just depends on like where, like some of the base factors underneath and, just kind of the things that we're only resurfacing, so some problems are gonna exist and are gonna come back, but I mean. I guess I'd say at least 20 years for the pavement or more. But again. Kind of like we got some other factors too, with. Just things changing in the long-term, the planning of, kind of again, our stormwater system and
So one of my fears is that if we ask for this various grades, how do we know that they're quoting the same thing? And, so, but I understand where you're going. You want something that's impervious. It's going to last 50 years if we could get it. But at the same time, I don't want to skew the bid process by asking a question and their interpretation of what we're asking for is completely different. So I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this. I'm sure that a general job like this, they're all sourcing their asphalt from probably over in Largo on Starkey Road. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they only offer one type of asphalt, or do they
Couple mixes.
couple of different mixes?
Yeah, and usually you see what's the most common mix used in, particularly, the Pinellas County mixes, the St. Pete, the DOT for this area. I mean, those guys know them all, and they're all very close. So
Okay. Oh, well, I guess in the bid process, we should specify what mixes we're looking for.
right, and when we specify the mix and thickness and all that.
And they approve it.
And that's where if we can do an alternate on if there's another works that you'd like to look into, like the super pave. But I really don't think that would be appropriate for a residential street, that type of asphalt.
We got to take into account, oil jumped $18 in the last month per barrel. I mean, it may just cost us a fortune
Yep.
unless it starts dropping.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments for Mr. Flutie?
we might be able to, Larry may be able to estimate. Kind of like he's already done for this project as is, for the asphalt. So you can kind of see the difference, but then not actually go out to bid unless they're. Serious about doing that cost increase for the higher grade asphalt. He should be able to estimate based on that mix. What the cost difference roughly is going to be, just like he estimates the rest of the project.
Yeah, what I'd like to see is, the same mix that we used on 12 and 13.
Mhm.
Which would make sense, and then see an alternate bid for an improved mix. That our engineering firm would think would be adequate and usable for our city streets. That's better, and that way we can judge the cost differential. If you're not doing something like that, you're just walking in blindfolded. Why would a city not want to see a better product that they could get that would just be a little small increment in costing? And the only way you're going to know that is to bid it out and include an alternate bid so you can see it in black and white. To say no, we don't want to do that is a misuse of funding of the taxpayers that live here.
I think a lot of contractors in this economy are not gonna give you a fixed price on asphalt. Because it changes all the time. Unless you're gonna pave it tomorrow morning or within 2 weeks.
No, they have to give us a fixed price for a certain amount of time. Period.
For a very, very closed window, and they'll probably have a disclaimer in there, if oil keeps rising, it's gonna go.
Well, you can have that, yeah. I was involved with a lot of projects when the China Steel fiasco hit. We paid we upped what we paid them because that was the right thing to do.
I've been involved with anywhere from parking lots to streets. Oil just goes crazy, you just can't rely on it.
All right, so can we just reach a consensus on this? You want to have a regular versus a premium grade quote, correct?
Yes, whatever our engineering firm feels is a good alternate bid to the same type of asphalt that we used on 12 and 13, because we've used that more than a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
So then what another upgraded asphalt would be to be used on our roads so that we can see what the cost differential is and make a logical, educated, informed decision.
I would also like to know what we get for that enhanced cost.
Of course.
What's the life expectancy
Exactly.
increase?
Agreed,
And without that, we won't be able to make a good decision.
right.
So I'm okay with that. Vice Mayor Shirley, would you like to weigh in on that conversation?
I agree. We should have some comparisons and competitive bids for asphalt.
All right. And do we have any questions about these numbers that we're showing on the cost here for each street, anything like that?
So that's the cost estimates per the design currently.
I'm sorry, say that again.
These are the cost estimates per street area for the current design.
For this current,
Okay.
yeah. What was the total?
Um. Total was with a 20% contingency, which is more than our past projects. We typically did 10. Right now we're at 4.08 million.
And what did we get approved by the lending?
2.5. It was 2.5 rough, like 2.3, but that was on top of what we already
Or did we
Yeah.
have in the budget?
for stormwater.
Perfect. So we're good? with
We're
those numbers?
currently, we're on the estimated budget.
Perfect. Great.
As long as we don't wait too long and watch the prices go up. Okay, do we have anything else on this discussion? Before we move on. Larry, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to your team also for giving us a great presentation and detailed documentation. All right,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Okay, I'll tell you what, it is 7:32. Why don't we take about a 5 to 10 minute break and then we'll come back and continue.
It's gonna deconstruct here.
I just want to, she just left. I had to get up like 5 o'clock.
Let's get back. All right, it's 7:43. We're back into the work session. And we're on item number 2, discussion on strategic plan objectives for fiscal year 23-24. This was placed on the agenda by City Manager Reaper. Take it away, Mr. Reaper.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the strategic plan. We went through over 2 meetings to each point and kind of made some notes and modifications. What I did is I took what was said in the meetings and I updated it. So for each goal, we updated the bullet points and we left it off. And this is before our first budget workshop, that we would come back and figure out some new objectives. And that takes you to the last page of the agenda packet. We got the green and the red. Some of them, there's objectives that we're still working on for each goal. And then you can see in the reds for the objective 2s, we just don't have another objective currently. And the idea when we come up with these objectives is we want them to fall in line with our budgetary planning for the upcoming year. So we kind of left it at each council member would, go home, think about it and come up with some ideas to fill in some of these blanks. If we start at goal 1, you got the health and safety. We got 2. We still have 2 objectives, which was the address and mitigate the street flooding issues, which is what we're currently doing. We just did, and to develop the street lighting plan. So we have money set aside for street lighting. Like I've said in previous meetings, I'm going to work on coming up with a kind of a standard throughout the city where we can improve our street lights. Focusing on our city streets. So for goal 2, that's the best value for the taxpayer. We kind of said we constantly revisit the economic impacts on capital improvement budget and the reserve funds. This is where we need another objective that falls in line with the best value for the taxpayer.
Councilman, any comments, questions? I'm looking at objective number 2, and I'm also looking at the entire tax dollar value goal 2, and basically what I'm seeing is these are things that we're currently doing now. Are you looking for a new idea to add to this? Or
That may not be currently something that we have to add. It's just having the objective set gives me a goal or a point to get to for in the next fiscal year. Of reaching the strategic goal. So I don't know if you have anything that falls in line, but we feel would be in the goal 2.
well, I know that Councilmember Zabel he's still working on the Marina plan, and that is definitely. I don't know if that would actually fall in this category. I see it's listed here, but is that an objective that we should be able to add, or is that considered something small?
So far to date, it hasn't been that small of an issue. I think we've kind of bounced it around quite a bit.
Right.
And I think
is this actually, at the end of the day, is it changing our tax dollar value, or is it enhancing our tax dollar value, or is it just streamlining the process?
I'd say more so streamlining the process, making it more equitable for every
Okay.
resident.
I mean, because it's definitely an objective for us, but I'm not sure if it would fall under the tax dollar value as an objective. Right now, if I just had to pluck something out of the air and plug into this, I would say, well, that's what we're currently working on. But is that really where it belongs? Anyone else like to chime in on that, or am I? Vice Mayor Shirley?
Yeah, I don't know that we can, that the marina is really a tax dollar objective. In other words, I don't know that there's much more that we can squeeze out of the marina fund as far as revenues go. So I look at this goal as a way, how do we increase revenues? I mean, maybe I'm off base there, but, and I think that looking more towards City Hall, I think the marina, we've kind of tapped out as it stands, and looking at grants. So, I know there's been a lot of discussion about setting up grant policies, and maybe this is where we put that objective in goal 2, is setting up a grant policy and procedure.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Grants have always been one of our weaknesses. Since I've been with the city, is they're few and far between, and whenever they do come along, they're not huge grants. But I've always wondered, I guess we all have, are we overlooking something because we don't either have the skills, the manpower to actually pursue these grants? And maybe one of the things that we should be doing, I think we've already briefly touched on it in a past meeting, was leveraging the services of the Florida League of Cities, because they actually have a service that we can tap into for free to help evaluate all the grants that are out there and see what's eligible for us. That seems like it would be low hanging fruit if somebody was able to spot it and would know immediately if we were eligible. And have we done?
No, I have, when you recommended, I have signed up, and I want to see if they offer something more dialed in to what we're looking for, because when I did sign up for the program, it sends me weekly emails of pretty much every possible grant nationally. And there's ways to kind of search through it. But I have not seen aspects of the program, kind of like what you're saying, where they'll actually do some work in looking for your community. If that exists.
I want to say, I wish that I had the guide with me, but I want to say that they actually do have grant writing assistance as part of one of the benefits that we have. It's just a matter of I guess making the contacts and staying on it.
With the Florida League.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we should definitely use it.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Yeah, can I just add, and maybe grants in general may not be the ideal item for that, but alternate funding for renourishment and some of those projects that we know are items that are on our goal list that we don't know how to fund and we don't know how to make it happen. So it's got to be on that goal somewhere, and that tax dollar value is probably a place for it to be.
So you're talking about beach renourishment?
Yes.
Yeah, the problem with going it alone on beach renourishment, if we had to do it ourselves without our neighbors doing it, it doesn't last very long. And that's been some of the pushback that I've received whenever I've been overly vocal to the county. But since you're going to bring that up, I can go ahead and tell you that Janet Long announced at my first TDC meeting the county is moving forward with planning and permitting to do the most needed areas for beach nourishment, and that would include Bel Air Beach. So that's should be something that we won't have to worry about, but unfortunately, whether we did it or they did it, or the Fed did it, we're still looking at 2 years out before anything actually happens. 2 years, yeah. And hottest year on record for, I think since like 33 or something like that. And it's a powder keg out there. And we're now in the most danger that we've ever been in as far as the setting for the perfect storm, because two entities were waiting to see who was going to blink first. So it's sad that we've gotten to this point, but I do think that the county is now, they have their eyes on bigger projects that they consider far more important than beach nourishment, such as the Rays Stadium. And I told them, I told Janet Long in the meeting that if you want to even consider talking about that, you're going to have to show the county that you're moving forward with this beach nourishment project. Otherwise, I think people are not going to approve. People are going to completely disapprove and be far more vocal than I have been. So hopefully we've got some relief coming soon.
Total ridiculous with this new stadium. Raise draw on an average of 18,000 a night. Unless there's another team that people come down here to use the beach.
Yeah.
To go to.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I mean.
Well, it's at the end of the day, we know where all that bed tax money comes from, and it's a minimal investment. I hate that the county is having to take their bed tax and reinvest it into their sand. But if they don't do it, I don't think anyone else is. One more thing on that, and then we'll continue on. The Army Corps of Engineers is coming down to do a small presentation and Q&A down in Treasure Island, and I will be attending that so that I can.
When is that?
I don't have the exact date, but I will.
You send out the date and time and all that good stuff.
I will. I don't know who's invited, if it's a regular public meeting or not, but I will find out. Okay. All right, Vice Mayor Shirley, would you like to continue? I'm sorry, I got on my little beach nourishment rant there.
No, I knew that was going to happen. I know it's a hot button, so I thought that might be something we add in there into that section,
Okay, so,
just as alternate funding, maybe.
okay, grants and alternate funding, or just, we can just call it alternate funding as objective to.
Yeah.
Everybody agree with that? City manager?
Yes.
Okay.
So goal 3, that's the communication and community goal. We currently still have, and we're looking at it, is just studying the intersection that kind of backs up. It's there may be nothing that can be done to it, but it's just to the county offered to do further studying, and we'll take them up on it just to see if there's any kind of solution to make things better for the residents. So we still have that on there. And like I said, they have their numbers in the firm that does their actual study and calculations. They told me it's probably about almost a month ago. There was a couple months. So we'll see what they come back with after the change was made, which was, I think, 2018-19 or so, when they kind of restructured the lanes. Maybe it might have been as late as 20, but kind of see what the results came back and see if there's any other way we could improve. So that being said, I know when we talked about communication, the website has been brought up. There was, some checking into, we'll do Attorney Moore with the just making sure everything's I guess ADA compliant. But we did talk about the possibility of putting in more forms, online requests functionality with our website to make it like with the street parking. And so, yeah, once Attorney Mora's kind of checked out and reviewed what he thinks where we need to be at, what we can add, and what will keep us compliant. That's something I can continue to grow on the website is the online form functionality of it for people that don't always have time to either come into the building or call in during office hours to get things done.
Speaking of that, are you satisfied with our web hosting company, or are you having to figure out tools on your own, or are they making suggestions to improve on that? Because there a lot of times those utilities, the bolt-ons, let's just call them, for your what's the name of it? The core WordPress.
Yeah.
So add-ons to WordPress, a lot of times things are just out there, but you don't know that, and you shouldn't have to. But they certainly should. And so I'm just going back to my question, are you satisfied with the level of service we're getting out of them, or do you need something better?
Well, we talked about Town of Bel Air's website, and I did reach out to Civic Plus because that is who they use. I spoke with Town of Bel Air staff first, and I found out who they worked with to design that website. That person is no longer working in our area, but I have a meeting set up with someone from Civic Plus to discuss what it would take to reach a design more like theirs, and see what their price points are. So I want to see how that comes back. If it comes to our current website provider with WordPress, I think it's a local option. I think they're in St. Pete Beach, and it was probably an economical option. But as far as really giving ideas to improve our website, they don't do much of that. Now, if you ask them specifically, I'd like to accomplish this task, and how can I do that? Then they will work on it for you. I mean, they bill you for it, but there may be some better solutions or companies that bring us more up to speed.
Okay, so that's a good example for goal number 3, objective 2, but I'm wondering if objective 1 should actually be in that category. Because I don't see your description of credible, timely, and transparent information and feedback between the city and residents, engender pride of ownership, including inclusion and civility. I don't see the connection.
That was just under that goal. I don't know how it was connected previously. Where do you think that goal would go?
It's this is could be objective 3 of goal number 1.
Okay.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem like it belongs there.
Yeah.
So I could see where the website, possibly doing some revising on the website would be a good objective, but I don't know about once that one, the Gulf Boulevard is moved out, what would you move in? Anyone?
I think utilizing the website once it's redesigned for communication, and then utilizing any other means we have. I don't know, we're not doing any text messaging or anything like that, but there's certainly some, and I know we don't want to get into the social media aspect of things, but certainly there's a lot of bad information on social media, and a way to combat some of that, to provide the city side of what's really going on versus what the gossip is on social media. So I don't know how we tackle that, but I think it needs to be an objective, because it is causing a lot of extra attention when it's not necessary if people have the right information.
because Hunter didn't walk down the tarmac.
I agree. I don't know if it's. I mean, we know, really, we know there's one general area where this miscommunication is this, I won't call it miscommunication. It's almost a disinformation and also just a way to indirectly try to steer the council. But I don't know if it's actually worth trying to combat that any more than we do in our meetings. No matter what you say, there's always going to be somebody that will take those words and turn them around. But I definitely like the idea of doing more on our Facebook page than we're currently doing. Currently, I think all we're doing right now is announcing our meetings, right?
Yeah, it's a plug in through the website that anytime that we're putting something up officially, it just automatically gets transferred over to Facebook. Keep it simple.
I would like to see, whenever we complete these projects, I would love to see a picture of 12th and 13th, how beautiful it is. I'd love to see every time one of our streets was redone, how beautiful it is, you know, showing the community that progress is made in our community. There's more than just announcing the meetings, because I'm sure if you looked at our meeting right now, what do you think? There's 3 people watching.
Yeah, probably.
Can you
Well, yeah, we got,
There's 2. I just looked,
we got 2, yeah.
Okay.
and they're both in the same household.
Yeah, I will say this, that I've noticed that it's much easier for people to find their information in a next door post or a Facebook.
And then you take long before Hunter ventured off on his own, using Air Force 2 as a.
Vice Mayor Shirley, is that in your house I'm hearing?
I'm muted.
Okay, it's all right, it's all right. Okay, anyway, it's much easier. I've noticed that the habits of people, it's much easier for them to read something real quick and form their opinion rather than listening to one of our meetings or listening to a recording or watching it on a YouTube video. I don't know how to combat that, because anyone can take whatever they want and turn a twist on it. But I think it's probably not a bad idea to have some kind of a summary at the end of our meetings. What did we discuss? It's kind of like the minutes, but maybe you take 20 minutes after a meeting and give the city manager a summary or something like that. And then that way there's another location that people can go look and get the story, because that's what's missing in this communication problem, is that there's only one source right now, and it's the source that doesn't like anything that we do. And that's just what it's turned into. Vice Mayor Shirley.
No, I agree. I think that's a good plan, is to try to have some recap or something, but certainly if we can put something on a social media post, that would be helpful.
The one thing that I don't want us to get into, and I wish Councilmember Zaber was here, because I'd like for him to hear this, is that if you decide that you're going to be the messenger for the city in a public forum where it now becomes records requestable, you may be setting yourself up for something bad in the future. So I don't think it's at all a good idea for anybody on the council to be the official messenger for the city of Bel Air Beach. And I hope that maybe once you come up with something, Kyle, that he won't have a need to do that anymore, because the last thing I'd want is for him to wind up in some sort of a legal battle because he's having to go find something that he doesn't have. Just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, we have our city email list. Not, as you know, not everybody voluntarily signs up to be part of it. I think mainly because of the public records aspect of it. But then again, I think that the thought behind some of the email blasts is they're trying to reach more people, but we can't necessarily do that because we have to have them sign up and they have to be voluntarily doing that. When we talk about the Nextdoor platform, I'd like to do more research, especially with some of the larger government organizations on how, if they do get involved on that.
I would not recommend getting on that.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
feel like
thinking something like
Facebook is more controllable.
Facebook and our website. I think that would be more than enough, and it doesn't require responses. It just needs to be
Yeah, definitely not.
coming from somebody, a city official.
Yeah.
I
So doing a summary. Can we try to, some of the success element stories, we try to capture with the newsletter, and I think Patty does a good job at doing that. I don't want to, I like the idea of like a meeting summary. I think that could help people, maybe give them something shorter to follow on a regular basis.
Right.
That does make sense. I just don't want to try to like I said, she puts so much effort into the newsletter, maybe we get that somehow out there, so we're not redoing kind of the same thing in multiple ways.
I think the summary of the meetings would be plenty. I mean, we have these lengthy conversations and back and forth, but at the end of the day, we reach a consensus on something, and this is the direction we think we're going on this particular topic. And it doesn't have to be in depth of who said what or anything like that, but just a general gist of it looks like this is the direction. Like tonight, we talked about the drainage plan. Hey, we discussed the drainage plan. Here's all the streets that are going to be impacted. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Things like that.
Yeah.
And I know it's last thing you want is more on your plate, but I still think that it's something that would help the city dramatically. Because last thing I want is anyone to look at Nextdoor as their primary source of news about Bel Air Beach.
Right, and we don't want to get involved in something that we put, factual, evidence or news out there, and then have it be a forum where anyone can tag on,
No.
because it will never. Yeah, it's the endless battle.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't add here, the challenges here first is no one's, I don't think in the history have ever been persuaded by a well-worded social media post. But the added element for you folks as a challenge is as you explore new platforms, being mindful of the public records responsibilities and challenges that come with that, whether it's just, it's enough to retain your post, but if it does have a thread element to it or a comment thread element, your ability to retain that as a dynamic record, because from Monday to Wednesday, maybe nobody comments, on Thursday somebody does, and then 9 months later somebody does again. And what is our ability to retain that record? And so that can present a challenge it's all its own. I think that the more you stay within the platforms that can control and are more accustomed to, that may be best understanding. I'm coming at it from the legal side and not the political side of trying to reach the most people the easiest way.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. All right, so back to objective number 2, then for goal number 3, do we have any other suggestions other than the website, which actually would include your platform? Do we need to revisit this later? Give everybody some time, maybe email in their ideas.
Yeah, no, I think I got.
Yes, goal 3.
Objective 1 being the website, that we're going to continue to look into, who we're using and how it's designed, and see if there's a better way to do that. And then also what we can do in-house to make, when it comes to like the online forms and things that.
I will say that Patty's newsletter nicely formatted, always looks nice, very nice and professional.
Thank
I
you.
agree.
Sometimes I get help.
What's that?
I said, sometimes I get help. And I appreciate it.
And then for like two, I have, like we just talked about, kind of coming up with a quick, just way to recount meetings, to get, the facts directly from the city of what occurred.
Yeah, I think that would work. A little revamp on the website and then just faster delivery of what are we doing?
Mhm.
What did we talk about last night? Vice Mayor Shirley, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that all sounds good to me.
Okay, I'll just keep calling on you because I don't know if you're raising your hand or if you're not. All right, continue, Mr. Reefler.
Okay, so goal 4, that's the aesthetic goal. And this is create a vibrant, well-planned, well-maintained appearance for the city that donates our sense of community or denotes our sense of community and our quality of life. And our first objective we have is the Golf Boulevard beautification project, which we know is underway. It's going to take some more time, obviously, to get the complete design completed. But we are looking for a second objective to relate to the aesthetic factor and goals of the community.
First thing that comes to mind for me is continued code enforcement. I mean, it's that's what keeps our city beautiful now. And cars not parked in the streets, lawns are nicely manicured, trees are trimmed. Homes are.
You bringing that up reminds me of just last year, which was October, when we went through this. We talked about coming back around, doing another survey as the follow-up to what we've done. So, yeah, okay, like that.
Can I add something?
You sure can.
Can we also add just reviewing the valley curb? I mean, I know where we went through and we repaved some of these roads. The roads are beautiful, but it created ponding in all of these valley curbs. And we've got issues throughout the city where the paving has been redone. So if we could just maybe assess that and add that as a objective under goal 4, I think it would be important.
And this is for repair.
Yes, after paving, we created issues with standing water in those valley curbs throughout the city.
So that would be an objective 3 then? Or do we want to just toss out code enforcement and make this our, because we're doing code enforcement all the time anyway.
I think it needs to be an objective because I know of several areas where we've got slip and fall potential where the water stands so long that it's creating slime in the valley curb and potential problems for residents.
Does that come under the stormwater improvement issue? We're talking about slime and valley.
Well, I think it does for what we're currently, our project now. And
Yeah.
if you go through the plan, you'll see, and I made a point in our meetings that we need to spec out the curbing, really define what our expectations are. You're always going to have, given our elevations, it's going to be hard to have the most perfect system. Because they work with a lot more fall in a lot of the newer developments, but we still can spec it out in a way to show what we want our end product to be, to make sure that we minimize any kind of ponding.
It's interesting also that I actually see the resurfacing of our streets as part of beautification. Because you look at one that's just been done versus one that hasn't been done in 20 years. And it's night and day. It just pops whenever you see this done. So it's funny how this stormwater project actually does a lot for the beauty of our community. By fixing the curbs and the paving the streets. It could almost fit right in aesthetics also. And I think
The
that's.
prob-
Go ahead.
Yeah, the one problem I see is that there were unintended consequences of these valley curbs worked fine until we came and paved the streets and didn't do anything to the valley curbs that were existing. And now we have standing water. So we've created some problems on some streets that haven't been corrected.
So is this aesthetics or would you consider this public safety and health?
Both.
And then I would challenge to say that what you're talking about falls right into the address and mitigate street flooding issues. It's just a different type of flooding.
I would agree. It's just wasn't discussed when we're talking about flooding, so I don't want it to be overlooked. Because
Okay,
we think these roads are done and they're not.
I got you. Okay. So then we would strip that out and go back to code enforcement, I guess. Because what can anyone think of anything else that we could plug into aesthetics for objective 2? No, just continued code enforcement. If anyone thinks of something else, let's email the city manager.
So the last goal is goal 5, beach water, which is preserve and protect our city's natural beach and waterfront environments. And we obviously have the beach renourishment ongoing. And when it comes to beach and water, I think of the beach side and the harbor side. And this has kind of been something that's come up in the last couple of meetings where the discussion of, saving money up for the city to purchase a boat to do maintenance on the harbor side primarily. And that's that would become useful for the maintenance of our stormwater outfalls throughout the city, and as well as our markers that are out there for the wake zones and the also the piling signs that we have in the south side of the city. So I mean, whether or not what our ultimate decision is on that purchase, I think that kind of, when we talk about strategic planning, aligning with the budget aligning with strategic planning, that kind of comes to my mind.
Council?
Well,
I-
aesthetics in the beach, it was brought up about breaking it more often. But there is no beach. That's the problem,
It's an ongoing project. It has to happen every 6 years. I think really I thought the original plan was 5. wasn't it?
Yes, that's from the 50s.
Yeah.
That was in the document.
I will have more information once I get to hear from the horse's mouth at this meeting, but it's 10 counties that are being that are basically having this problem. And I spoke with Representative Luna about this and wanted to get her take because she's been working really hard trying to get the Army Corps to change their mind also. And in fact, she said that now this is her number 1 priority more than anything else. This is what she's focused on, is getting the Army Corps to change their mind. And the way that she's planning on doing it is there's a way that I believe it's next year, not this year, but next year, they're going to change some language in on the books that will prevent it'll basically take the power away from the Army Corps to do what they're doing. In the meantime, this year, the Big C mayors voted all together to allow her to do, I forget what the name of the rule is. I can't remember the name of the rule, but it's basically, it's a tool that they have to strip the funding of people that aren't doing their job correctly. And so she's actually going to see if she can send that through and defund the individuals that are responsible for making this happen. But I don't know. I think at the end of the day, we're probably not ever going to get that funding again, because until the federal government can 100% own our beaches, and no one can say, all right, this is my land and I'm not signing an easement. I think that they're just not going to do it. Maybe she'll have good luck with it, but
I think there's too many Supreme Court cases stating that, property rights on the beach for some of these residents are not, and this Supreme Court, I don't think would ever.
yeah, the problem is the line that they're drawing in the sand from where they want the easements to go. Some of them are beyond the mean high water mark or mean high water line, and they come right up into people's backyards, and they don't want to do it because it's perpetual. If it was a 2-year thing or something like that, they might be more receptive to it. But
And the problem here is the last time they did an ECL line was probably 15, 20 years ago. They did and you've had so many beach storms and avulsions taking away sand. These private owners have never established or replenished their sand. There's Supreme Court cases, Stop the Beach Renourishment. It was right across our state saying, hey, you lost your property rights because you didn't take care of the thing. Scalia wrote a decision on it. And I'm telling you, we live in an area where we don't have 19 blocks renourished since I've been here and way before I've been here. But you look at the topography 2 years after the beach renourishment, and it's all leveled out. All that sand just fills right in. And our neighboring town gets free public sand at their use.
and
Needs to stop.
well, the reason why that happens is because the reason why they don't get it is because they didn't have any public land to give for parking.
And I say that's argument can be addressed because there's 3 beach access lots.
I'm not gonna get into that.
Uber buses and everything like that that have access to those lots.
I'm not gonna get into the legalities of the deeds.
What I'm
And,
saying
and
is-
meanwhile, City of Bel Air Beach gave up all their rights. So I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, but we, and we should not have, but we did, and that's where we're at today. So,
Amen, Vice
Well,
Mayor.
I think the biggest problem is that the Army Corps should have just done it anyway, all the way down the beach and not skipped Bel Air Shore. But that's another story, and that's something much bigger than all of us. Vice Mayor Shirley, you were gonna chime in on something before.
yes, I just wanted to add on the beach and waterfront that we need to, when we're doing code review our code regarding our mooring policy and restrictions within our jurisdiction of waterfront. We live in a waterfront community, both intercoastal and beachside, and we need to put into place in our codes some restrictions to boat moorings and things of that nature. And I think that should be part of our plan, our strategic plan.
Is it enforceable at all?
Absolutely, if we put the right code in place, such as proof of pumping out your boat that's been sitting there for 3 months, rather than, those boats are just pumping overboard. So there's feces, raw feces on our shores, and no one's doing anything about it.
And that's where I understand what you're saying. I say the same thing. There's a giant houseboat out there right now that that I'm pretty sure people are living on, and then there's a yacht just adjacent to that, the houseboat. And I know I see people on that one every day, and I don't see them leaving. So they're living on that boat. And you're right, they probably are pumping out right into the ocean. So
That's only been there, what, a couple weeks though?
even 2 weeks is too long.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
not saying,
yeah,
oh, yeah, I'm
yeah.
not challenged, but that's, because there was another boat out there, a resident brought up to me. And I think it's moved now. He said it's been there for like 2 months.
In the Gulf?
No,
Oh, no, those are-
right?
okay, yeah.
Almost, you
Yeah,
can
right.
almost see it, right?
We're slowly becoming Bel Air Bluff is what's happening. They're slowly filling it in over there, and we're gonna lose control of it. It's what's gonna happen if we can't figure out a way to stop it, but I don't know. I have yet to hear a good solution.
I can tell you, and I've mentioned this several times in Key West, they require proof of pump out weekly. And if you don't have it, you need to move along. But we have to have a boat to reinforce that code. And if we aren't able to enforce a code we put in place, there's no point putting it in place. So I'm just suggesting that we start getting serious about it before we have a problem.
Well, that would be a sheriff's enforcement, not us.
Both areas.
Well, sheriff does our code enforcement, right? So how much do we want to bring them on? Do we want to hire them for?
What I could add to this dialogue is, especially as we have so many communities up and down our beaches, there are practical limitations to enforcement, whether those be first, just jurisdictional, are they our waters? Even though we can see them from parts of our community, are they in fact our waters to patrol and enforce upon? If they are our waters, do we have the resources, or to the extent we rely on community partners, do they have the resources? Are they willing to commit to doing those things? Sometimes the answer is no, or it will eventually. That's just not the highest priority. And that's in no way impugning PCSO. I just mean, in general, you have when you're working with community partners, they have their own priority lists, et cetera. So I can tell you other communities have approached this. I'd be interested, Member Shirley, to know more about that Key West example, and we can talk offline, because one of the challenges I've heard in other communities is the issue of your territorial waters, where you're enforcing. It's one thing if you're talking about somebody mooring just off of your marina or your mooring field. It's another when they're just out in the middle of the intercoastal, and what your ability is to go out there and say, hey, Bel Air Beach has a problem with this, even if you're not in Bel Air Beach proper. So just some concerns, but as far as you folks go with goal and objective setting, you do as you wish, and we will, of course, provide you whatever information and research you need to make the policy that flows from your goals and objectives.
All right. So as far as goal 5, what we should actually do, I don't really know if beach renourishment is something as much of a city issue as I mean, it definitely impacts us all. But as far as the day-to-day responsibilities and what City Manager Riefler is having to accomplish in his list of goals, is beach nourishment, should it even be on this list? Or is this something on the outside that we're all trying to deal with to help the city, but we're not funding it. This city will never get a drop of sand on its own. It's just not going to happen. You'll never get the permitting. You'll never, if you wanted a jetty or whatever, you're never going to get any of that. Because the permitting is required by the Army Corps. And even now with the county designing their plan, they're basically copying the Army Corps' plan, and they're going to have to apply for permitting through the Army Corps. The difference is that we're not asking for any money. Instead, we're going to have to do it ourselves with our bed tax, which I don't have a problem with, because it's tourism. And so, if that happens, if we have to fund it that way, well, then we just don't get some things, and we spend our money wisely on on our cash cow and keep it alive and fed well. So my question is, should this be objective one or should it be something else? I think the boats are really becoming a major issue, and I agree with Vice Mayor Shirley. Is it objective one or should it be an objective two?
Yeah, the beach tree nourishment, I think, goes in addition to the beach and the natural beach, it goes under the tax value too. If we don't have beach, the beachfront property and the tax value goes down considerably.
But
As
it's
tourists.
from a goal for the city,
Right.
is it anything that we can accomplish?
Yes,
I mean, we pretty much are at the mercy of what happens between the Fed, the state and the county.
yes, absolutely. But I think it's still a goal.
Yeah, same with red tide. We can only handle a minimal amount of fish pickup. I mean, we only have 2 people. I mean, we rely on the county to do a complete sweep.
Yeah, they didn't sweep us.
No, we typically do it all.
Um,
The one time that they did come through, we had already picked up, it was just second, third waves that they kind of helped out with.
yeah, because I saw contractors on there.
They did,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you firsthand, by the time they came through, it had already been picked up.
I'll tell you what the county was for. Whenever you look at Treasure Island, St. Pete Beach, the fingers in those areas, you could walk on the fish. There were so many. And that's where the county came in, and that's where you get some of your tax revenue back whenever they're cleaning up a disaster like that. They didn't spend a lot of time here because it was manageable and we were able to actually do it. I would much rather them be down there helping those people than coming up here and plucking a fish here and a fish there. But we're situated in a certain way to where geographically, most of the big catastrophes, it seems to be south of Johns Pass, seems to be where, and I drove my boat through there one day. I'm not kidding. It looked like tomato soup, the water coming out from behind my boat as I drove through it. It was thick orange. I mean, it wasn't a skimmer. It was all the way to the ocean floor. Everything was orange. You couldn't see through it at all. It's terrible. No, and that's what the county's been taking care of. So yeah, we do take care of our own in that case, but I'm sure that there's always a possibility that it could be worse, you know. So back to goal 5. Jody, would you like to be objective 1, the boats?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, that's fine if that's objective 1, but I think we still need to keep even though we can't do a whole lot with regards to beach renourishment, it still needs to be a priority on our list. And so I think it should stay on there as something we should focus on.
Okay, well, we'll leave that one on there and then we'll make the boats as objective 2, if everybody's okay with that. I will say this is the beauty of Bel Air Beach. We've got goals, but they're modest. You know, we don't have huge problems in this community. That's one of the blessings of living here, is that if you put this same list in front of Clearwater or St. Petersburg or the county, it would be overwhelming. So we're very fortunate. All right, is that a good start for you?
Yes.
Would anyone else like to add on to this conversation before we move on to item number 3? Going once, going twice. All right. So we are on to item number 3, which I believe was placed on here by Mr. Roberts. I'm looking, there we go. Yes, discussion on maximum parking time limits. Take it away, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, many of you may have received an email from a gentleman, I can't even recall his name, doesn't matter. And then that was followed up with
Nourish mega.
yeah, so I actually had a phone call with him. And just the conversation brought up my question, which is, I know it's always good to kind of like take a look at these things we put in place to see if we can tweak it, if it makes more sense, or just leave it the way it is. And I talked with Kyle, and he checked on a report, and the question was, do we have very many people that are parking at Morgan Street? And then once their 3-hour time limit expires, they jump in their vehicle and move it down to the marina because they can, the way our system is set up. So it's 3 hours at each location, not 3 hours period, which of course we could make that change if we thought that made more sense. We could just say, you've got 3 hours at either the marina, either Morgan Street or City Hall, right? We could do that if we thought that made sense. So the real question is, do we think that 3-hour period that we decided, because I started thinking as I was talking to him, I can't really remember why specifically we went with 3 hours. So that's really the question. Are we good with 3 hours? Do we feel like we should adjust that? Or do we feel like we should leave it at 3 hours for our total city so that they can't move to another location?
Yeah, I can kind of recap what happened. Basically, we have limited parking for our community.
Correct.
We have the three Bel Air Shore areas, then we have Morgan Park, we have the marina, and then we've got here.
Correct.
And what people were doing was they were parking here at a bargain rate, walking across the street and filling the parking lot up, and residents of Bel Air Beach were not able to find a parking spot over. So they go to Morgan Park and be full. Well, then they would have to go across the street to find parking. And we decided that really we're doing what the minimum requirement to offer public parking for non-residents. And so
According to who?
what's that?
According to who? The 3-hour minimum.
Well, no, I'm not saying that we're just required to give public or to provide public parking.
I think
That's-
it is 3 hours or something.
I don't think we were actually, I don't think that there was a,
This is for beach nourishment. We had to have so many parking lots, but I don't.
that's what makes us eligible for beach nourishment.
Okay.
And so what happened was, you had people that were coming here, they were paying a minimal fee and they were going to the beach. And the parking lot was filling up. And even whenever we allowed an all-day rate, or, you were able to fill the meter. But originally we had a limit, and what was happening was, I think we had minimum 3 hours, and then they would just walk back over and they'd fill it back up with 3 more hours.
Right.
Okay, well, we just didn't want that.
Correct.
And so we tried to figure out a way to make it inconvenient to come spend the day at Bel Air Beach
If you weren't a resident.
if you were not a resident. Now, this gentleman sent the email and he said he's a resident. And so I responded to him and I said, fine, go to City Hall, pay $5, and you can park all you want year round. And I didn't hear another peep out of him.
He's not a resident. I specifically asked him. He didn't say it in the email. He was a resident. He used some
He
unique
said be
terminology.
residents. He said be residents.
Yeah, he didn't say it like, I agree with you.
Right, he didn't say I'm a resident of Bel Air Beach.
But
Clearly. Yeah,
you would take it.
so I specifically asked him, are you a resident of Bel Air Beach? He said no.
Yeah, and I talked to him and I said,
Nice gentleman.
and I explained the whole thing about beach nourishment
Sure.
and us giving up Morgan Park, and he goes, and I said, a lot of our residents don't go to the beach till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. The parking lot's filled up by then.
Mhm.
So he said to me, he says, well, did you ever consider the first come, first serve? I said, yeah. I said, and that's why we put the 3 hours in there.
Because we live here.
Our residents pay for the parking lot, pay for the upkeep. the only reason we opened it up to the public was because of beach renourishment. And now we're not getting it. And it's actually been on the table to pool that public park. Now you can, I told him you go down to Sand Key, park all day for $5.
Yeah.
You know?
But, you know, if we look at it like, we have Sixth Street, right? And 12th Street and 19th Street. Those lots, I don't think I've ever seen them filled.
Well, that's different. They're under a different restriction and
Right.
you cannot open them up ever for public parking.
No, I realize that. I realize that. So Morgan Street is the one, and I get that the people that live on the more northern part of our city, so they want to park it at Morgan Street. Because that's where they live, and some of them would like to walk, I mean, you know, drive, because you're deeper kind of into the intercoastal area and drive there. So now you drive there and it's full.
Right. I would say that if they're driving over anywhere, they probably should drive over to Sand Key Park. Just because, again, if you look at the north side, there's very little, I mean, there's nowhere to go. And I hate to say it, but they live in Sand Key and they have a giant park that thousands of parking spaces and a big, huge, wide beach. And it's not disintegrated. Their beach is pristine compared to ours.
Really?
Yeah, because they have a break wall.
They're right there. At the
They have a
end.
break wall protecting it. All the sand flows south and there's no water knocking it down. So whatever, we've lost ours, but they've almost kept all of theirs. You know, it's a little thinner as you get a little more north, but you start getting anywhere near that park and they have plenty of sand.
But so really my question was, is it something, I just wanted to toss it out there, that we want to change the 3 hour to a different number? Or do we want to even go further, which I guess doesn't make a lot of sense, because then we're, cutting up our nose by their face thing, where we're telling people 3 hours period. So you can't move to the marina and give us more money.
I don't really have a problem with them moving to the marina. And the reason why is because it's not full.
That's what I'm saying.
Ever
So-
full, but I don't want to give them all day parking either. So
Right.
How's our revenue with since we changed it? Is it still coming in
Yeah,
about the same?
It's gone up.
see,
Why
it's gone up.
It's going up because we doubled the price.
Yeah,
That's why it doubled up.
but that's the only reason we care.
Right.
We're not here to
It's
service
just going
Largo.
up.
I got one of my friends came up to me. He lives in Largo. He gets his wife to drop him off. Now the sheriff jumped in because his wife dropped him off at 6th Street. Sheriff said, "Hey, this is for Bel Beach residents," and
Right.
So we're good with leaving it the way it is.
Vice Mayor Shirley, would you like to chime in on this topic?
I would agree to potentially extend it another hour to 4 hours with the caveat that we reserve 2 spaces for city residents like we used to at Morgan Park. Since we're not getting beach renourishment and they're not keeping up their end of the deal, why are we giving up all of our parking? And
So right now it's 100% meter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
unless you have a sticker.
but if you park in a metered spot and it's full, there's no reserved spaces for
Right.
Bel Beach residents like there used to be and always had been up until a few years back, the last renourishment.
I'm fine with leaving it alone and just keeping it the way that it is. What about, let's just do an informal survey. Frank,
Leave it alone.
Even though-
Leslie?
Yep.
Boyd?
It doesn't matter. So what she does is have 2 spots that would say Bel Air Beach citizens only. Of course, if you park there, you'd have to have a sticker.
I think that you'd have an
That's
enforcement
correct.
problem.
Yep, absolutely.
We already have an enforcement problem.
In the regular
We all,
spots, like
Yeah.
6th and 12th and 19th. People park in there that don't have stickers.
Yeah.
Jody, is it okay if we just leave this one alone?
I'm still in support of taking back 2 spaces and I have been, it's been a big issue for me that we do not have reserved spaces for residents at Morgan Park. And I think we need to go back to that.
Okay, well, right now, the majority says leave it alone.
I'm for the two spots with Jody.
No,
That's
okay,
the-
well, now we've changed, so it's a 50-50.
Oh, just here. Well, Belinda's out
I
there,
think
right?
Councilmember Livingston.
Is Belinda,
Yes, I'm here. I
what's your
recommend that we
thoughts?
leave it to how we have it currently, the minimum of 3
Okay,
hours.
that's better. You've been very quiet. I thought I was talking to you at the beginning. of the meeting.
Everybody was saying what I thought, so I just kept quiet as they were speaking up on my behalf.
Okay, all right. We'll just move on this one and right now, Vice Mayor Shirley, I'm just curious, this is purely for my own information. Are we completely filling the parking lot with paid parking tickets? Paid parking rather?
I'm sorry, I don't know I didn't hear what you said.
I'm just wondering, how often are you going over there and it's completely full?
Anytime on Saturday and Sunday, if you want to stop there, you cannot. There's not parking for residents. And it's the only lot with facilities. So if you have small children with you, it's kind of important.
Do you think that it would be enforceable?
Look, it was that way for many, many years. I've lived here for 23, 24 years. And it wasn't until the last renourishment that we gave up all those spaces in Morgan Park.
Okay, so do you think we could just get away with putting up 2 signs and call it a day?
Yeah, it's no different than what Indian Rocks Beach does. They have reserved spaces for their residents. You have to have a sticker to park in those places.
On the question, how much would it cost for a fine? If I pull in there, I'm from wherever, I park my car, how much would a parking ticket cost?
I don't think, I don't think we could set it, but it's
Well, right now, you know what?
probably cheaper than,
$55. 55.
yeah, it's probably cheaper.
So I'm gonna pull in that spot. I'll pay the $55. Okay, I'll stay there for 6 hours and I beat you for $5.
I mean, we have directives. We can issue a directive to the police to patrol those spots.
Right, but I'm saying is, if I get a ticket,
Mhm.
I'm gonna stay there for 5 to 6, 7 hours, and then I'm gonna
Maybe.
beat the city.
It depends upon how soon the police detect you there. But
Because we don't have towing. You know,
Yeah, they still only give a ticket though, and they only give 1 ticket per day.
see now in those spots, we could enforce towing. We could make those towaways
That
on.
would be a big ticket.
well, sure, but I mean, are we gonna do that? It's what I'm saying, because if I go there once and I get a $50 ticket, $55 ticket, I'm saying, hey, come here for the whole day.
Well, that would be one way to make sure that it didn't happen. Towaway zone, Bel Air Beach residents only. And did this change anyone's mind?
If we do a toll, don't Delaware Beach residents only, I think that will really mess us up for beach renourishment.
Oh, that might be,
It would definitely break the contract.
Yes,
Even if we said Bel Air Beach residents only?
yes.
Yeah, because remember
Parking.
when we did
thank you.
we raised it $10, it became an issue and then it had the meeting.
No, it doesn't matter. It's perpetual. It's done. We never will get that back. We can never get out of those easements.
Okay.
Yeah, we're done. So that being said, I like your idea, Jody, but I think it's not doable. I think that's the problem, and that must be why it went away.
Yeah, I would give the whole right side to Bel Air Beach residents. I mean. but,
Yeah, I would too.
But I think Leslie made a good point.
Yeah.
If they're not giving, if the Army Corps is not honoring their side, and this might be a
It's-
question.
I agree, but once you sign something away, whether you made a bad deal or not, there's really there's no obligation on their part to continue doing it.
I would like to see how many parking spaces we committed versus what we have out there. Because that's what it is how many parking spaces have we committed through the city for public parking?
Yeah, I can provide that. I have notes. I think it was first brought up when Lynn was here. But there's notes and emails. But I can send the documents to everyone so that they can
I
see
think you
it.
can call the county. It's their easement. It doesn't belong to the Army Corps. It's the county that got them.
The agreement.
The perpetual easements on our land.
Yeah, but the agreement it specifically says that we have to provide so many parking. Public.
Yeah,
parking.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm sure for signing the easement, there's something somewhere that says this is what you must do.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And send that to you.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll look into it and then we'll discuss it again at the next work session and see if we've changed our minds or if we can do anything to help up there on that end. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Sounds good.
All right, now we are on to general business. Yes,
I got some things whenever you're ready, just to let you know.
go ahead.
Okay, so I sent an email out, that was on August 8th. It was, Perry Pinellas reached out to me because during our comp plan review with the planning and zoning board, it was brought up that some of the annual traffic counts, they were concerned that the way they did the counts, that it possibly didn't reflect our peak hours during the day when our traffic's the highest, because their counts are more focused around the commuter traffic in the county, and people, members of our planning and zoning board felt that our traffic patterns could possibly be different in Bella Beach, and they requested that if possible, if Philip Pinellas did some specific counts for Bella Beach to make sure that that it falls in line or that we get the correct information. So Linda Fisher, who we know has come presented here for our comp plan, reached out to me and asked if we do want these studies done, that we need to make a request to the Whit Blanton. He's the executive director for Pinellas, and they'd be happy to do them. So I sent an email out to the council trying to just get a consensus if that was agreeable to each member of the council. I heard back from 3 out of 7, so I just wanted to bring it up because I'm interested in doing this because I think it's something that they will provide for us, and it might give us some insight into the traffic patterns here at Bel Air Beach.
I don't have a problem with them doing a study. However, I would greatly appreciate this city having the opportunity to agree or disagree with their ultimate decision of what they think is best for us. Because they may be they may come up with a plan that we absolutely hate and don't want to consider it. Such as maybe something we've already done in the past, or, that didn't work out so well. Or say they come back with, yeah, we need to rip out this island and the crosswalk. Those are some things. I think I'm one of the ones that responded to you and said, yeah, I'm interested, but
Yeah,
I'm sure they know we don't.
yeah, and that was never brought up in this discussion. It was more along the lines of just making sure that our patterns were in line with the rest of the studies that they're doing. And if you remember in the statistical section of the comp plan, it gave ratings on the kind of congestion of the major roads, which are Causeway Boulevard and Gulf Boulevard. And we were pretty much the worst rating. And actually, I think North Gulf Boulevard, instead of an F, got like an E. It was like second to worst rating, which didn't actually line up with what you would think. So it was kind of requested that we do the studies and see if if they are rated that bad, and then, and take that information and try to use it for improvement, but it had nothing to do with them recommending us, how we, change our roads or lanes or traffic lights or anything.
Good, good. All right. Well,
So I heard back from, Mayor, Member Livingstone and Member Roberts.
shame on the rest of you.
I didn't. see them there.
Read it tomorrow.
I'm good with it. Yeah.
Okay, you want to go around or?
Okay, Mr. Roberts, you okay with the study?
Oh, yeah, I responded and said
Yes,
I'm
he was
okay with
good.
it.
Okay.
People
Leslie?
thought it were good.
All right, Jody?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I think it's a good idea to take another look at them.
All right, Belinda?
Yes, I'm still good with that.
All right, Frank?
Active futility, but go ahead. It's not gonna be a resolvable problem unless you put a subway in here, which I think we did for you down.
Okay. All right, anything else, Mr. Leafler?
Yeah, we got our insurance. Oh, that's what I put in front of you today. Came in late last week. But I was notified today. If you go through line by line, you start with the general liability coverage, that increase, our premium went up 17%. The cyber liability was only 5%. The auto liability coverage went up 12%. The auto physical damage coverage went up 4%. The big one, like projected, was the property coverage that went up 98%. So that, we planned on 75, that actually went a little higher. Workers' compensation actually just went up 1%. So overall, our total premium went up 44%. It is close to what we budgeted based on how we spread out 10% on certain line items and the 75% on the property. But this is the quote, and they provided some material with some explanation, but I did talk to the representative from the Florida League of Cities, and she is willing to come and answer questions and talk about it, and I feel that we should probably take her up on it. Just to bring her to a meeting and hear an explanation. I think that they feel it's justified and they care, and they're offering to answer questions, so.
I'm sure that Mr. Bankert has plenty questions concerning insurance.
This state's becoming almost unbearable to live in. I mean, from homeowners to everything. I mean, I just read that lawsuit again today with the flood, and I talked to that woman. You said it was gonna come.
Yeah,
She told me she'd come in here too, but she's saying, the rising cost of materials and everything like that. Yeah, it's true, but how do you explain 98%? Okay, a 2x4 isn't 98% higher than it was 2 years ago. This is price gouging 101. I mean, I talked to our state rep. She hasn't gotten back to me on the wind insurance and everything like that. It's becoming uncommon. Yeah, I mean, some of these prices have gone down and these rates have just keep going through the roof.
What I can tell you is that insurance is one of the #1 priorities of the League of Cities, and also with the Florida League of Mayors, the Suncoast League of Cities. Everybody's hurting in the same way, and so
You have 40% of Floridians are not picking up insurance.
yeah.
And I don't know how a new homeowner buys a home here unless they have such deep pockets, because your insurance bill is going to be, if you live on the beach, it's going to be $1,500 minimum, just minimum a month, more than your house payment.
Yeah.
And then I'm not talking about taxes or anything else. I mean, it's just, and I've had state reps say to me, well, this is gonna kill the property values, and that's gonna kill us, because we rely on the tax base.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I need an answer. What's the solution? I don't think that there is one. Not anything that I can think
I
of.
don't know, I'd have to get the Ouija board out. I mean,
So the explanation I got was we kind of got a double hit when it came to last year being when they resurveyed our assets. They did a 5-year, every 5 years they survey the assets. So we kind of were up for the, what did you guys get now that we have to insure? So that kind of hit us at the same time that we have these storms that hit Florida that cause a lot of damage, and they're seeing the claims go through the roof. And another factor is they are offering a specific asset service per asset, and then also a blanket coverage. And I guess in some of the situations in the cities that got hit that had specific asset coverage, they weren't updated enough where they had the proper insurance to cover what hit them. So Florida League of Cities, I guess, decided through that they were gonna cover all cities, municipalities with a blanket coverage to, in the future, prevent that from happening.
what I'd like to ask her if she came here is, this is property insurance, okay? So if a storm hits, okay, wind, we have to have a wind insurance policy, we have to have a hurricane flood insurance policy. They would say, that's not our responsibility, okay? It's property, you go see your flood, go see your wind. All right, but they're still gouging the hell out of us. Just like a typical homeowners. No one's explaining this to me saying, well, yeah, we have bad storms here. Yes, we do. But you don't pay out on those bad storms. Now you jump on the bandwagon of the, and I'm not yelling at you. You jump on the bandwagon of FEMA, and you jump on the bandwagon of citizens or whatever like that. But you're not showing me actual payout costs is what I'm saying, because of these damages. Now, sure, there's going to be a lot of people lighting up their homes that just have homeowners insurance, and they feel a flood's going to come in. And well, that's fire risk, and that insurance fraud, absolutely, but that's the way it will work. I mean, but that hasn't been the factor, is what I'm saying. It's just really, there's no meat to this that's saying that this is actually what is costing us money to raise these rates like this. And what are we going to do? Or not insure us?
Well, we did reach out to the other.
I know.
We have seen similar market.
I applaud you for doing that.
I will say that, so whenever I was walking around at the League of Cities event, I had this, it was a bunch of ribbons for all the programs that we participate in and the different classes I've taken. And yeah, it was a little bit embarrassing because there were some people that had like 2, but what I did notice was the very first one, I believe, was FMIT. And not everybody there was wearing that ribbon. And so that tells me that not everybody's using the League of Cities insurance. And it's probably in our best interest to reach out for other quotes just to see.
I spoke to an Eric Hart, and he's with the FMIT. I asked him about what percentage rates for all the other cities like Indian Rocks. They're not covered under FMIT, but there ain't. And I think he only had one is us and the Bel Air Shores with. So you're right.
Yeah.
A lot of them not. And I think you said we had some mitigating circumstances where people didn't want to underwrite us right now, but maybe they'll clear up in the future.
Well, they just told me that they knew they couldn't compete right now with FMIT.
Well, and that's, I mean, their way of, it's just a giant fund, a giant pool of money that they're collecting, and they're self-insuring is what they're doing. They're not in it for I don't believe they're in it for profit. I think they're in it to cover their butts. Make sure that in the event we have something like what happened down south, they have the money to cover us, you know? I would always, be willing to look at other quotes if they were cheaper and had the same coverage at minimum. But it's ugly. I'm paying one of my insurances tomorrow and it's astronomical what I'm having to pay. Yeah.
Just paid all mine.
So I'll try to get her to come maybe September.
Who is it?
The. So that's.
Name?
Lindsay Johansson. And she's the account executive, West Florida.
Okay.
I think she recently took over.
You've got some other information that you can get to us. Looks like you had some other papers there that weren't what we.
These ones she provided. These are just, what I did is I took the invoices and I calculated the percentage of the increase per line item.
Okay.
But I could provide whatever you'd like.
Yeah, just a quick note, when he responded back to me, Indian Rocks Beach not covered, Indian Shores not covered. North Reddington not covered, Madeira Beach not covered, Bel Air Shores is experiencing 90% property coverage increase.
Wow.
Covered by this group. Everyone I say is not covered, only us and Bel Air Shores is covered by this group. Like the other ones have somebody else.
Okay, well, it may be possible that one-stop shopping is not into our advantage,
We can do a quick clerk survey possibly to find out who the other, I think it's the other.
You know what,
Company.
the problem is if you leave there and you go to a new one, are they gonna gouge you right off,
I've seen companies, they reel you in 1 year and nail you the next year, or even worse, cancel you.
right, that's the other three.
That's.
Say you won't have to worry about it with these guys.
Right.
Because our interest is the League of Cities is very helpful. Anything else you'd like to add? It should be it. Jody or Belinda, would you like to say anything, make a comment on the insurance situation?
Stop prosecutor. It may not have even.
I have nothing to add. This is Jody. Clearly, insurance rates are going up. I don't care what segment of business you're in, and that's just the time we're in right now.
For another reason.
Things are tough all over. Okay, if there are no other comments on that, I'm not finished yet. All right, we're still under general business. So did you have anything else, by the way?
Just want to update, we have the deadline for the RFP is going to be this Friday at 2 p.m. I have, I'll immediately download the proposals and send them out. I have right now 3 members on the evaluation committee, myself, Community Services Administrator, and the chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee, Ron Saganic. We're going to review them all independently, and then we're going to meet on Monday. Kind of got to see, play it by ear, see what comes in. And we know, we're under kind of a time crunch here, so we're to evaluate, to give a recommendation for negotiation to council. I did reach out to Waste Management and got a 1-month proposal to extend at our current contract rate, plus the 4% CPI and tipping fee increase which is minimal for October. Takes it so, because currently our contract ends the end of September, but that'll take us to October. It pretty much our same rate buys this time. But if need be, I'll bring that to the September council meeting for approval by council, just so we can get it done.
All right, cool. All right, if that's it, I spoke with Wendy Grimes today at the election capital headquarters in Pinellas. and just ask some general questions. And Patty, correct me if I get these numbers wrong, but whenever our election aligns with a large election, we're roughly running $1,376 per election. Okay, if our election falls on an odd cycle to where there's just a few municipalities and they're really just doing it for us, our elections are almost $4,000. So there's a substantial cost savings, not only by aligning with the general and the midterm elections, but also we would reduce the number of elections we have. So rather than 2 every 6 years, it would be 2 every 8 years if we made this change. So I wanted to give you that information, to give you some more to think about. Also, the next election is March the 19th. So if we decided to move forward with this, we would have to have the plan and the language turned in to Pinellas County on December the 19th. So before I go around the room for opinions on this, I wanted to give Randy the opportunity to kind of speak his mind on what it would look like to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As far as what it would take to move forward, we would do an ordinance that would call for the issue election with a resolution setting forth the ballot language to accompany that. And so I would draft and prepare that. I have begun the process of, one of the questions I was posed at the last workshop was a meeting on, or rather a memo on what you can and can't do in that process in terms of advocacy. During the 2022 election year, they changed what a city can pay money for or contribute towards in the ways of advocacy on issue elections, so substantially limiting it. And so I'm trying to write that for you as well. But as far from where I sit, it's really just, what are my marching orders? Where we left last time was there was a general consensus to move in this direction, but people would sort of let it marinate and see if that changed in the interval. As far as from where I sit, I believe I was waiting in part for this meeting, but I believe I have general or rather the August to September meetings. We would have a hearing in October, a hearing in November, and send it to them and send it to them with ballot language for the December hearing, December deadline. But I'd want to have that process done cleanly in November. That way, if we needed to redo anything before the December 19, we also have the benefit of, oops, we got to fix this one.
Okay, so I gave an assignment to the council to speak to your constituents and see what the general feel was of the public. If they thought it was a good idea, a bad idea. I have had a few people say they didn't like the idea, but it's the same people that don't like anything. So I realize that's going to happen, and I have to just because sometimes I have to weigh what they're really thinking, or if I even need to take their opinion into consideration. Everybody here that votes has an opinion, and so I try to not form my own opinion about their overall what their motive was. But I had very good responses whenever I spoke to people around the community. I spoke to probably 30 people, and I've had numerous emails and phone calls and whatever. And I think they all like the idea. But I wanted to see what everybody else, what your feelings were, and if you were serious about this, or if it's lost its luster. Mr. Roberts.
I think it makes sense. I did talk to several people, not 100. But most people felt specifically aligning with the general election and the midterms absolutely made sense. Yeah, I'm good with it.
And so what we were talking about, just a quick refresher, moving from 3 years to 4 years. Aligning with the general and midterm elections, reduction of council members from 7 to 5, and increase of terms by 1 additional term. And so what that would do is, if you were newly elected, you could serve up to 12 years before you would term out, and then you would have to go back, take the year off, and then, now it would be 2 years that you would be required to take off, and then you could come back and do it again if you wanted to.
And to be clear, to add clarity to that, what you're talking about is putting that to the voters. That would go to the voters in terms of a charter referendum. It's not, if you're saying here that like, I'm in favor of that being put to the voters, it's not so much, I am voting and this will happen.
Correct, and that is one of the disinformation campaigns that's going on out there, is that certain people think that we're dictating this, and that's not the case. We're just giving the public the option to say, yes, they like this idea and they want the city to move forward, or no, they don't, and we keep things the way that they are. So Leslie,
I would be in favor of moving forward.
still in favor of it. Vice Mayor Shirley?
Same answer as I gave at the last work session. I'm in favor of moving forward. I'm not a huge fan of the 3-term.
Okay, all right. Ms. Livingstone,
I'm in favor of moving forward.
all right. And Mr. Roberts? He's not here. Mr. Bankard?
I'm in favor of keeping the status quo. I think 12 years in office, become a dictator rather than a representative.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I was really hoping Mr. Roberts would have been here too, but he's right there. Yeah. Mr. Saban, excuse me, man. I'm all confused now. Yeah, it's no wonder, it's almost 9:30. Okay, so yeah, I would still like to hear Mr. Zabel's comments, but I guess we'll do that next time. So the question is do we want to move forward and get started immediately with drafting this up?
I will plan to draft it up.
Okay, good deal. I don't have anything else. Last call, would anyone like to add
I just
anything?
had a quick question. So what's the status of the full-time admin? Do we get anybody applying?
Made an offer they accepted today,
Awesome. Good, thanks.
2 to 3 weeks, hopefully.
Okay. Well, if nothing else,
Motion,
do I have a motion to
Second.
adjourn? All right.
the sunset for you.
All in favor?
It looks like.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Yes.